3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476 is the number to jump on board with us. And you could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. The new overnight hosts at the Infinity Sports Network, which could be heard on many of these same Infinity Sports Network affiliates and stations that you're listening to us right now, in addition to Sirius XM Channel 375 and the always free Odyssey app. And you can listen to our overnight show from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Pacific Time, is Pat Boyle. So congratulations to Pat Boyle, someone that we know very well. And I asked Pat to come on the show today. So he will be joining us at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll get to hear a little bit in the daytime about what the show is going to sound in the nighttime. And those overnight slots are prime real estate. And especially not that, I am a young broadcaster, but I've been doing this for a while. Or I guess the way I should say it is I'm young in age, but I've been doing this for a while. So someone like Pat, who this is the first full-time opportunity as a host, it's a tremendous platform. Let's be real. I was at other spots. I started in Trenton, New Jersey, in the Princeton area. Stu, I was actually Stu's boss, and I didn't even know Stu was an employee because he was just working there on the weekends, as I was the program director and afternoon drive host and board op and producer and salesperson. It was all crazy with the many hats that I did wear. And I also programmed a Christian religious station as well. I was the program director of 2 stations, the sports station and the Christian religious station as well. And since that, I was able to then do post-game for the Eagles on 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia, and then I bounced in between the other station, 94 WIP. And when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, that's where I reconnected with someone that I know very well in Eric Spitz. And Spitzy said, we have a weekend overnight opening. And I did a few auditions, and then they called me up. They said, we're going to give you the job and also give you about 35 to 40 fill-in shifts a year. And I left my job in New Jersey, and then I made this place home. And through there, it kind of launched my career, because when you're on the weekend overnights or the overnight period, and Pat's going to be doing the overnight during the week, replacing Amy Lawrence, who left us, is now working at Mad Dog Sports Radio, you're on so many stations. You're on 350 stations around the country. So if you do good content, and it's easy to make news, and if you know which markets you're on, which you're practically on in a ton of major markets and mid-sized markets and small markets. So it's very easy to make news and give opinions and be heard by so many people, because sometimes people have this misnomer of, who's listening at night? I'll tell you, the overnight community is one of the most unique communities I've ever interacted with. And I've said this before. Obviously, I love my schedule now. And the overnight schedule is a grind. The overnight schedule, you have to sacrifice a lot, and you're basically nocturnal. If I could just not do the hours and be on those many stations and also get to talk to those listeners, I would do that for the rest of my career. I would. Because you get so many people, truck drivers, people that are just getting back from a late night out, people that are just getting up. It's such a diverse community. And I had a blast doing the weekend overnights for almost 2 years that I did it. Then I went to Sirius. I pulled to Manny Diaz after 3 months. Another job became available back here at the network, and they were begging to bring me back from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. I did that for a bunch of years, and now I'm here from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. So what I'm saying is, and I've said this to Pat, and Pat and I are very close, and not that I was a part of any of these interviews, to be clear, during the process, but when you are a host here at the network, I would say the majority of the candidates, which I appreciated, not that they had to do it, but I think it's smart by them to just kind of pick my brain or pick other hosts' brain. They did reach out to me, and there were a ton of good candidates. And I told Pat, I go, if you get the gig where you are in your career, and this would be your first full-time job doing a show 5 days a week, you do it the right way, you could climb up the ladder very, very quickly. So congratulations to Pat Boyle. He will do a fun show. There is no doubt about it. Pat Boyle is going to be opinionated. He's going to be loud. He's going to be in your face. And that's my type of radio. And he's not going to shy away from anything. The only thing I'm concerned about is how long it takes. And maybe we should start putting money on this, and we should all pick a date. How long it takes Pat to get canceled. Because Pat will cross that line a little bit. He will toe that line, and then there's times he steps over it, and he'll make some joke, and it will not land well. I'll never forget, it was actually in this time slot, back when it was CBS Sports Radio, and we had the partnership with CBS Sports Network, and I'm filling in solo. It was cool. The first few times they asked me to fill in, I would always do it with the co-host, and then your money would be cut in half. Then they just said, oh, we'll give all the money to Zach on the fill-in shift for the TV, and we'll let him do it solo. So I think one of my first times filling in this time slot solo on TV, for some reason, I think Santer wasn't here, and Pat Boyle was producing, and I think even still then, D-Cell was on the board. Did D-Cell, Stu, you would know this because it's your job, did D-Cell ever produce or was the board op, the associate producer for Maggie and Perloff, or was that always you?
That was always me.
Okay, so then it was you. Maybe you'll remember this. And I don't think you were out, but we were talking about Pete Carroll. And I threw it to Pat's way. And Pete goes, or Pat said something about Pete Carroll dying on the sidelines because he's so old. And I'm like, what are we doing? And that back then I had a dump finger like Pete the Body Bilotti, and I dumped it, but TV didn't dump it. And I was so much in my head. I'm like, oh, that's so stupid. Now we're going to go viral. Now we're going to go. I'm starting to sound like Chernoff. Now I'm going to get slammed for this because back then I actually cared what people thought when I would say things. And I thought that was a big no-no. But then one of the producers for the TV side was like, oh, I just kind of laughed. That was it. I go, okay. But there are times where Pat could cross the line. So I just hope Pat doesn't cross the line anytime soon, because I hope this is the launching board, what should be a long and really good career, not only at the network, but whoever knows what it can lead to. So congratulations to Pat Boyle. And that wasn't like when I first got here. When I first got here, see, I was just nice and right, just gave a level take. Scott Farrell, I'm not saying he wasn't nice, but Farrell's on the air. We got a new weekend overnight host. His name's Zach Gelb. He has opinions. He's awesome. He's the future of radio. He's going to give you big guests. He's sensational. He just hyped me up in the Farrell way. And Farrell comes into the newsroom and he goes, hey, I'm Scotty Farrell. Nice to meet you, Zach. I just hyped you the F up. Don't mess it up, kid. Farrell on the bench. Shake it up. That was my introduction to Scotty Farrell, who I actually grew up listening to. And when I got here, Bill's not going to like this. Eric Spitz told me before I did some of my first few shows, hey, listen to a lot of Bill Ryder to get a sense of what the network sounded like. And for whatever reason, I just didn't tune in to Bill Ryder right away. I went to Scott Farrell just because I knew more of Scott. And I go, okay, then let me tune into Bill. And I could see why they didn't tell me to tune into Scott, because it's a totally different radio show. So that was I knew of the network obviously before. I said this when John Feinstein passed away. Obviously, Jim Rome was the franchise here for so many years. And Jim Rome is obviously such a big name, but there was always a separation from really Rome and the network. It was two different entities. So in terms of the guys that were in this building, or that had the same phone number, let's just say, as the one that we would give out, I always thought Feinstein brought a ton of credibility. And we've had a lot of great hosts through the years at this network. Gio and Jones, Chris Moore and Brian Jones, John Feinstein, Jim Rome, now Rich Eisen, D.A., Maggie and Perloff, Brandon Tierney and Tiki Barber and Dana Jacobson, Farrell. It's kind of fascinating when you look back. Even McAfee was here for a few months, and then he cursed too much. Now, when I first got brought back, that was the press release. It was DA to mornings, McAfee to middays, Gelb to nights. And that was the picture of the three of us on the press release, which is kind of funny when you look back at it. So we've had some great hosts here at the network, and obviously Amy did a great job. But now I'm excited to see what's going to happen here with Pat Boyle in the overnights, and I expect it to be a very good duo. Just like how I said Bart Winkler and Carlos Ortiz were going to be a good duo, I do believe that Pete the Body Bilotti, who is very funny and underratedly funny, I think him and Pat Boyle are going to be a sensational duo. So I love our lineup. In the mornings, Maggie and Perloff from 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Then you get Bill Ryder for 2 hours, and Bill he's always great, but especially during this time of the year, he's our best basketball guy. So playoffs, he's must listen. You got Rich Eisen from 12 to 3, us from 3 to 6 here on the East Coast. And then we go into JR, who's sensational. I've known JR for a while. Then you get Bart and Carlos. I always like to just say Bart and Carlos, because Carlos on the board is just unbelievable these days. And then you got Patty Boyle. So we have a well-rounded lineup. I love this lineup. I'll put it up against any lineup in the country when it comes to national radio. And I always say this about our network. We do a good job, but it's tough to do this in a national landscape and making national radio sound localized. And what I mean by that is forming a community. And we have formed a community here at the Infinity Sports Network, and we hope it continues for many, many, many more years. So we've had changes in the lineup. Changes happen all the time in radio. I know the listener never likes changes because you get used to something. We don't want to break your routine, but definitely must-listen stuff. 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Pacific. To Pat Boyle. All righty, that's enough with the kind words because there's going to be times I'm going to be shredding and ripping and going after Pat. So enough of this slobber fest. Samter, I will say, I was surprised by you today. There was a company email sent out, and Samter replied all to congratulate Pat Boyle. How about that?
I'm actually a little bit disappointed.
Little suck-up spot there by Samter.
I'm a little bit disappointed that nobody else did.
Reply all to a company email. No offense. I don't think you ever want to be that guy.
It was a program schedule that actually said Pat Boyle officially the overnight host. So, of course, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in Stu.
I texted Pat on the side.
Doesn't
I texted
matter.
him this morning, so.
I called Pat.
Okay.
I may or may not have just found out when everybody found out last night at 2 a.m. Eastern when it was announced. It was a very serious announcement by Pat. So I may have had a conversation with him on the phone and via text as well, instead of just replying all to a company email.
So I've also reached out to him privately, but here's a question.
Did you ask for his number, by the way, like that Braves reporter?
He's not my type. Let's put it that way.
Let me tell you, how serious are people now? I saw that actually last night when it was breaking, before it blew up into this firestorm. And I'm sitting back and I go, all right, that was a little weird. But I didn't sit there saying, oh, I need to defend it to the fullest or say, oh, cancel. And people just make things bigger issues than what they need to be. Oh, my God. You had a reporter who was basically egged on by his talent to ask for these two attractive girls' numbers. Like, people would think that he walked up to them and did like the most disgusting act possible. But that's the society that we live in now. You can't have fun, and everything has to get so serious. And I'll just say it to have two things here. You look at that situation, right? That's a male issue. And then you look at a woman issue. If you go back to when the championship game was ending, that one student reporter, I'm pretty sure she was, who had a credential and she was recording herself as the game was winding down, and she showed some emotion, and people were like, oh my God, how dare she do that? I understand that there's some principles of journalism, but not everyone is this super duper, I got a hair up my you-know-what type of journalist these days. Like, we could be human beings. I don't see how anyone could see what happened last night at that Braves game and lose their mind over it or care one way or another. It's not a big deal to me. But anyway, Samter, back to you replying all to the company email here. Anything more that you want to add on that?
Well, here's a question I have, right? You're on Facebook.
Yes.
Facebook always has today's birthdays are. If you contact somebody individually, text, call to wish them a happy birthday, do you then not wish them a happy birthday on Facebook?
Depends how close I am with the person. If I don't really care about the person, I'll just write happy birthday on Facebook, and I've been doing less and less of that. If I do care about the person, I probably wouldn't even post on Facebook about it anymore. I would call them up or I would send them a happy birthday text.
So are you saying that you would never do both?
Rarely. I wouldn't say never, but rarely.
See, for me, I'm a big do it privately, and if it's someone that you care about, do it publicly also.
Yeah. By the way, when is everyone's birthdays? Just making sure. Stu, I know you recently had a birthday, right?
November 22nd.
Oh, that's recently.
Not too recent.
Easy for you to remember, one day after my brother's birthday.
November 22nd, right?
Yes.
Okay, right around Thanksgiving. That's all. Remember, stew and lasagna. That's all I'm going to think about. Samter, when's your birthday again?
Stew and lasagna. I honestly...
Be careful. You got blocked again. You be careful.
There's someone new in charge of Twitter. I can probably say whatever the heck I want to about...
You never know.
About your turkey loving or hating days. I'm March 6th.
March 6th. Yeah,
same as Shaquille O'Neal and same as Michelangelo the painter.
Oh, really?
There you go.
I think Coach Prime and I share the same birthday. I think Deion Sanders is August 9th. Double check that for me. But I do believe that Coach Prime and I share the same birthday. I believe so. Am I right on that?
August 9th. He was born a couple years before you.
Yes, just a little bit. So Stu, I'll remember with lasagna, and Santer, I'll remember March 6th, basically right around the Big East tournament. That's all I'll remember it. So anyway, we'll take a timeout.
I'm the Big East tournament?
Yeah, that's a good event. That's one of my favorite events of the year. I think Big East tournament, I'll think Santer. We'll see Patino with St. John's, and we'll see Creighton with McDermott. Dan Hurley, when he's cursing out a referee, I'll think of Santer. You and Dan Hurley be a little bit similar, right? In terms of the anger and things like that.
When you look up to the rafters and see Patrick Ewing's jersey, you'll think of me.
Georgetown Hoya. Yeah. Little Allen Iverson. Think of moments like that. Anyway, we'll take a break. We spent 15 minutes talking about the network and congratulating Pat Boyle. I should get 5% of his new contract after that hype. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. The Giants are going to work out Shedeur Sanders on Thursday. They're going to fly to Colorado. What's the latest with the stock of Shedeur Sanders? We'll tell you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Yo, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Maybe as we honor Pat Boyle for becoming the new overnight host here at the network, as that was announced earlier this morning, maybe I'll come back from every break and go, hey-o, as that's how Pat Boyle starts his show each and every day. But we'll have Pat on coming up in about an hour from now, so looking forward to that conversation. So I read something this morning that Shedeur Sanders is going to have a private workout with the New York Football Giants on Thursday, so 7 days away from the NFL draft in Boulder, Colorado. So 7 days before the draft, what does that mean if the Giants are having one last meeting with Shedeur Sanders? And I think that people could interpret it many different ways. Maybe it was all a smokescreen all along, that the Giants weren't going to take Shedeur Sanders, and the Browns, they know that they're going to take Travis Hunter with the second overall pick, so it's no benefit for the Giants to basically dispute any of the narratives that are out there. If maybe someone's going to try to trade up and get the two to jump the Giants if someone really wanted Shedeur Sanders, right? That could be a theory that's floated out there. Other theories could just simply be the Giants are doing their due diligence. Like, you could look into an NFL draft meeting and you could talk about the NFL draft, and you could have 9,000 different theories. And usually, none of them are ever right. But in this case, here is where I'm potentially at. And I waved the white flag the other day in saying that as much as I think Shedeur Sanders should go to Cleveland and Shedeur Sanders should go to the Giants, one of those two teams should pick him, that just with everything that's out there, it does feel like Cam Ward's going number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. Then the Cleveland Browns are going to take Travis Hunter with the second pick. The Cleveland Browns take Hunter. And then with the third pick, you'll have Abdul Carter going to the Giants. That's the way that I feel like it is. Not should, but is going to go. But could I be wrong in terms of the way that I look at it? The Giants logically should take Shedeur Sanders, and they do so at 3. Yeah, that's still on the table. Because I don't think you're just going to have this meeting 7 days before the draft for nothing. And let's be real, something that I'd always used to laugh at, the last 2 years I started to take it more seriously. I would always laugh this close to the draft when teams would say they don't know what they're doing, right? And then you had last year 2 meetings and how quickly they came about with Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons, and then also with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, and that changed rather quickly. So, and that wasn't that far out from the draft. So judging by those 2 recent circumstances, and also seeing a few years ago when I fully do believe that the Niners traded up to get to 3 with the intention of taking Mac Jones, and through that process, that changed to Trey Lance. As well thought out and researched this draft stuff is, I don't believe that the decisions are made as early as I once thought that they were going to be, when you had an idea of what was going to happen. But in this case, I do think the decision now for the Giants, if it holds true with what I'm saying, that Cam goes 1, Travis Hunter goes 2, the decision then becomes Shedeur Sanders or Abdul Carter. But let's just say that the Giants end up taking Abdul Carter at 3. There was a host here once on the network, a few drafts ago, who was at the draft, and he was doing the draft show. And in the pre-coverage to the draft show, he was on that show. And he talked about, with all these rumors about Tennessee potentially moving up to take a quarterback, how the Houston Texans, who had the 2nd overall pick, and it wasn't locked in that they were going to take C.J. Stroud, that talk show host predicted, I forget what his name is, H. Felb, I think it was something like that. I forget what the guy's name was. But that talk show host, that astute, that really intelligent, and really just a guy that could see the future, a clairvoyant talk show host, he said, well, why wouldn't the Texans, who had 2 first-round picks, take C.J. Stroud at 2, and then with all this talk about Tennessee maybe moving up, and that 3rd spot was open with the Arizona Cardinals having it, why wouldn't you then jump Tennessee for moving up, and you also get your pass rusher in Will Anderson Jr.? And that's exactly what happened about 45 minutes later. So with recent history being out there, I think we need to explore this option now. And let me make this abundantly clear. If I was the Cleveland Browns, I would take Shedeur Sanders at 2. If I was Joe Schoen with the Giants, I would take Shedeur Sanders at 3. With that being said, though, let's play into Travis Hunter going 2 and Abdul Carter going 3. It does not take those 2 teams and out of the running for Shedeur Sanders. Now, you could say, why would you run the risk of losing that player? And why would you run the risk of losing the quarterback? It's because the quarterback, if he doesn't get taken by the Giants, he's probably going to fall a bit. And you'll have some wiggle room. Like, if Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, if you're the Giants, whoever remains, you pass on one of them, in all likelihood, the Patriots are then going to scoop them up at 4. So there's not as much wiggle room with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter in this draft, but it is appearing like if the Browns and Giants pass on Shedeur Sanders, there will be some wiggle room. Because Stu's a big Raiders fan. Stu would love to see Shedeur Sanders get drafted by the Raiders, but the sentiment right now is that the Raiders are not taking Shedeur Sanders. So you have the Patriots at 4, they're not taking Shedeur. You have the Jaguars at 5, they're not taking Shedeur. It does not appear likely that the Raiders are taking Shedeur at 6. The Jets, I think they're going to go with Justin Fields for a little bit, and it doesn't appear likely that the Jets would take Shedeur Sanders. And then you have the Carolina Panthers at 8, who have the rejuvenated version of Bryce Young. Well, the Carolina Panthers aren't taking a quarterback, but the Panthers maybe have got some intel, or maybe the Carolina Panthers have heard all the rumors that we have with this Derek Carr injury situation and the Saints looking for a quarterback. Now, some say maybe they're going for Jackson Dart. Others will say, oh, well, the Saints and Shedeur Sanders, that seems like a match. Or maybe a team like Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, they had a 5-hour meeting. A 5-hour meeting with Shedeur Sanders. So maybe you have Shedeur Sanders get a deal done at 8, and you have Mike Tomlin trade up from 21 to 8. That's a possibility. But what happens if Andrew Berry and also Joe Schoen could get the best of both worlds? And this happened not that long ago. Now, here was the difference. The Texans had 2 first-round picks. So they got C.J. Stroud at 2. They used their other first-round pick. They traded up to 3. But you could find a way to trade up to 9 or 8, with the Carolina Panthers and risk future draft capital. And you could go get a 2-way star in Travis Hunter, and you pair him up with the guy that he played his college ball with Shedeur Sanders. Or if you're the Giants, let's say you get Abdul Carter at 3, you could go get another pass rusher, who I think is the preeminent player in this draft, and you could still go get your quarterback. Because of how early both of those teams do pick in the second round, it's not inconceivable to use that and maybe a future one, if that's what it takes to potentially move up. And I don't know how rich it's going to be to move up. But it's tougher to do when you don't have the extra first-round pick. So if I'm Joe Schoen and Andrew Berry, let's be real. What is Andrew Berry associated with right now? Stu, when I say Andrew Berry, what's the first thing that you think of with this time with the Cleveland Browns?
Traded 1 million picks for Deshaun Watson.
And gave him a
paid
fully guaranteed contract, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So the perception of Andrew Berry, even though he hasn't got slammed as publicly as Joe Schoen, it's not in a positive light, and you are treading water trying to keep your job. Now, when you hear the name Joe Schoen, Stu, what's the first thing that you think of?
I would say Daniel Jones.
Okay. Interesting. Even though he didn't draft Daniel Jones, but he kept
was
Daniel Jones
attached
around.
to him and paid him for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would think Saquon Barkley first. But still, to your point, if that's the second thing or the first thing, because everyone's different, right? You haven't found your quarterback yet. And I also think about his kid in Hard Knocks saying, Dad, you only get one chance at this. Go get Jaden Daniels. Well, if Joe Schoen doesn't bring in a quarterback this year, and sorry, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito, we like your mother's chicken cutlets, but let's be real, none of them are going to be the long-term starting quarterback for the Giants, then you better win a lot of games. And the Giants don't have the ability in them this year to win a lot of games, and that's why I would find a way to go get Shedeur Sanders, because it doesn't guarantee that you'll be back next year, but it increases your chances because you could provide some long-term hope if he just plays halfway decent. So I'm going to think that this could potentially be on the table, where it's risky when you do this, and I would not pass up on the quarterback at 2 or 3, but I could see a world where Cleveland takes Travis Hunter at 2, the Giants take Abdul Carter at 3, pick 4, let's say, is Will Campbell, 5 is Mason Graham, 6 is Ashton Genty, 7 is Tyler Warren, and then the Carolina Panthers are sitting there at 8. And the Panthers could be like, we could maybe make a trade, we could fall back, and we're okay with getting future assets, and we prevent the Saints from potentially getting Shedeur Sanders, and we could get a team like the Giants or the Browns to come back up who are desperate for a long-term quarterback, and they could get the best of both worlds where they get Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders or Abdul Carter and Shedeur Sanders. That's something that I think is on the table here for draft night, which comes next Thursday in the first round. I think it's very much so on the table, and it would be a way that Andrew Berry and also Joe Schoen could save some face and finally be talked about in a positive way and get the best of both worlds if either could pull it off. So real quickly, which team, or actually what player are you curious about the most where they land in the draft? For me, it's Shedeur Sanders, because I talked about him going 2 to Cleveland. I've talked about him going 3 to the Giants, 6 to the Raiders, 9 to the Saints. Who knows at this rate? I don't think he'll fall to 21, but maybe he does fall to 21 or falls enough where then the Steelers are able to scoop him up. But Shedeur Sanders, to me, is the player in the draft where I'm most fascinated by where he lands. Stu, who's your player where you're most curious where they end up landing?
For me, it's Tyler Warren. I know there's some talk of him going to the Jets at 7. I think the Bears are a possibility as well. I don't think he falls past that, but if he does, it's not far. But I think where he goes, if you take a tight end 7, I think that's kind of interesting because tight ends usually don't go that high. So where he lands will be kind of interesting.
And let's be real, the Raiders didn't have much last year, and they took Brock Bowers early, already when they had another tight end that they used an early draft pick on. So I could say the earliest Warren goes, I agree with you, is the Jets at 7. I think the latest he goes is the Bears at 10. And could Carolina maybe surprise some people and take Tyler Warren and pair him up with Bryce Young? Sure. I wouldn't anticipate the Saints to do it, but it wouldn't shock me because maybe those teams will just take the best player available. And I do believe Tyler Warren he won't go in the top 5, but I think he's a top 5 player in the draft. Samter, who is your player that you're most curious to see where he's going to land in this draft?
It's a guy that you actually introduced me to, Mr. Ashton Genty of Boise State.
Oh.
Because he could go to Stu's Raiders. I think he's a perfect fit for the Bears at 10.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But it's so interesting to see how the running back position is changed. I was reading an article about the last number 1 overall pick running back, John Carter, whose career never took off because he tore his ACL before he even played a game. And you've seen some of these running backs go top 5, that just didn't really work out. And so I think Ashton Genty is kind of a different character. So it's really interesting to see where he's going to go, how high, because the fall off after him to Amari and Hampton and then beyond that is pretty steep. So it's going to be interesting.
And you had Ezekiel Elliott have a good run early with the Cowboys. I think he went 6 or 4.
Leonard Fournette never really panned out.
Yeah, that's true. He did win a Super Bowl.
Melvin Gordon wasn't,
Saquon, I know it didn't work with the Giants as they envisioned it, but he ended up working out well with the Philadelphia Eagles. Clearly, Bijan Robinson has been good so far.
But has he lived up to what we thought that he was going to be?
But I think that's
you
more
can blame Arthur Smith, but still,
I think it's more so the incompetence of the organization. Bijan Robinson had a very good year this past year, and he's had a good first 2 years. But I think they should use him just a little bit better. And then even I know it's a little bit later. I think it was 12, so it's a little bit past the top 10. But Jahmyr Gibbs, everyone slammed the Lions for that pick, and that was an exceptional pick. So I think Ashton Genty's a top 5 player in the draft, and I usually wouldn't advocate taking a running back that early, but the Raiders need a face of their offense. I know they have Brock Bowers, but it's tough for a tight end to be the face of your offense. Usually it is a quarterback. With them kind of hitching their wagon to Geno Smith, I think a team like the Raiders would make a ton of sense for Ashton Genty at 6. But if not, if the Bears are there at 10, scoop them up. Like if him or Warren are there at 10, whichever player is available, write the name down, go right up to the podium. And you end up doing that. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'll do 10 NBA questions entering the playoffs when we come on back. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you could save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. First, it was Zach Martin, and now another former mainstay of the Cowboys' offensive line in this generation is retiring. Tyron Smith calling it a career after 13 years in the NFL, the first 12 spent in Dallas. The 8-time Pro Bowler was with the Jets last year. Jalen Ramsey is set to be on the move again, but not by his request. The Dolphins are looking to trade the 7-time Pro Bowler. GM Chris Greer said that Ramsey did not ask for a trade, but both sides agreed that it was best for everyone to move on. The Bucs' Damian Lillard reportedly out for the start of the playoffs due to the blood clot that has kept him sidelined for the last month. The final 2 spots are up for grabs in the Eastern and Western Conferences and will be decided over the next couple of days. The play-in tournament begins tonight, starting with the East and the Hawks and Magic in Orlando. Jamal Mosley's team got off to a fast start and finished the same way with wins in 9 of 12. The winner will face the defending champion Celtics in the first round starting over the weekend. The Warriors will meet the Grizzlies out west. Golden State has only itself to blame for being in the spot, dropping the regular season finale. The Grizzlies won 4 of their final 6. The winner gets the Rockets. I'm Rich Apple.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Howdy, partner. The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD, veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's players: Atlanta Hawks guard Dyson Daniels, the third-year player out of Australia, finished the season with 229 steals, nearly 100 more than second place Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had 131. I'll tell you, anytime I see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I just want to say SGA, because Jack Stern, wow, we're going really through the archives here of names at the network. He once did an update, and he was like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I believe it was. And then he called Kirk Herbstreit Kurt Herbstreit. And for whatever reason, even though it's an obvious name that everyone's heard of in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and then Kirk Herbstreit, when you hear it one way and you laugh so much at it and you have fun at someone else's expense, for some reason, it's then just stuck in your brain that way. So now whenever I hear Kirk Herbstreit speak, I always have to pause before saying his name. And then when I go through this read and see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the first thing I think of is actually Jack Stern, of all people. So how about that? Anyway, entering the NBA postseason with the stupid play-in tournament starting tonight. Stu, you like how much I hate the play-in tournament, if
I
we're
do.
just being honest.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I just saw Stu was almost like falling over laughing. I can't stand the play-in tournament. So entering this dopey, stupid, dumb, just idiotic, waste of time play-in tournament, I have 10 questions entering the NBA playoffs. Celtics or Cavs is question one in the East. Those are the two best teams. Cavs have the best record. The Celtics have the second best record. Until someone takes down the Celtics when it matters, I'm going to pick the Celtics out of the East. With that being said, the way that the Cavs can shoot from three, and I've seen them live in person now twice this season, they're going to be one tough out. Duh, obvious statement. They're the number one overall seed. But I feel as if the Cavs, ever since the LeBron James era, we always look at them, even when they have good teams, and we're like, we don't really need to take them seriously. Well, this is the best team that they've had post-LeBron James, and they've been sensational. But with Jason Tatum not playing great last year in the NBA Finals and still winning a championship, I still think Tatum has something to prove in a bizarre way, and I don't believe that this is going to be a Celtics team that's going to resemble the Celtics team that they were before they won the championship with this core, which was a team that was ahead of the curve early, and then they got to a level where they ever win, and they finally answered that last year. So I would still lean with the Celtics. Question number 2. What does Tom Thibodeau need to do to keep his job? I don't think Leon Rose wants to fire Tom Thibodeau right now. And the two of them are very close. And here's the crazy part about this. The Knicks are as stable as they've ever been in my lifetime, if we're just being fair about it. They just had back-to-back 50-win seasons. So Tom Thibodeau goes there. Tibbs is 41-31, 37-45, 47-35, 50-32, and 51-31. I would have to guess their last back-to-back 50-win season as a franchise was in the late 90s, I would say. Let's see. 34, 44. No. Yeah. It was with Pat Riley. Oh, my goodness gracious. And you go back to when they lost in the NBA Finals, well, they had 4 straight 50-win seasons then. Pat Riley, 51-31, 60-22, 57-25, and 55-27. So you're going back to 95 was the last time they won back-to-back 50-win seasons. So that's what Tibbs has done. So I don't think the Knicks are looking to fire him. I understand, like I saw it the other night in person, OG Anunoby, he looked like he was carrying around myself, Peter Schwartz, Pat Boyle, Andy Gresh, any large human beings, Carlos Ortiz on his back. And that was with 3:30 left in the third quarter, and he looked gassed. So I understand the demanding style of Tibbs, but as long as Tibbs gets past the Pistons, and then I don't think they'll beat the Celtics, but let's say they get past the Pistons, which I'll take the Knicks in 6, and then they lose up against the Celtics, I do think Tibbs is going to be back to start next year. Here's the next question. Question number 3. Will Damian Lillard return? Now, Shams Charania had some of this today, and he said Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard, who's had a blood clot, will miss the start of the NBA playoffs, sources tell ESPN. Bucks play game 1 of the first round against the Pacers on Saturday. Lillard has been sidelined since March 18th, and doctors continue to monitor progress for clearance. And then Shams also says Lillard has, however, made significant progress with the blood clot, and there remains optimism for clearance at some point in the playoffs. Sources said he's continuing to increase basketball activity this week. So I texted a doctor, because I'm not good with this stuff, and it was Brandon Erickson who joined us when Wemby had the blood clot, and he said, presumably, because I go, doesn't it seem too quick for Lillard? He said, presumably they got the ultrasound and saw the clot had diminished or is gone. So I guess if you're a Bucks fan, first you got to win your first round matchup. Maybe come back later in the first round, but I think the second round, if you're there, would be more likely. Question 4. Can the Thunder live up to the pressure? Here's my easy answer. Yes. If the Thunder don't get to the NBA Finals, I'll be very disappointed, especially with the way that this is all broken down the last few weeks with the Jenkins firing and also the Mike Malone firing as well. SGA is a stud. He's on the precipice of being, right, we know he's an MVP. We know he's a top 5 player, but there's difference in then getting the respect in the playoffs. SGA needs that moment, and I think the Thunder will be in the finals this year. How far will Luka and LeBron go? I'm starting to think that Luka and LeBron with the Lakers are going to be in the conference finals because I don't love the Rockets. The Lakers are the 3 seed. They should be able to beat the Timberwolves, which I think that, matchup could be a little bit better than what people think. With that being said, the Timberwolves just don't have that it factor this year, and they're only separated by a game in the regular season. 49 wins for the Timberwolves, 50 for the Lakers. So as long as the Lakers get through there, then they get the winner of the Rockets up against whoever is the 7. So if the Warriors are the 7, I would still pick the Lakers. And if the Rockets, get through in that 2-3 matchup, I'm still picking the Lakers. So I expect the Lakers to get to the conference finals. 6, what's the ceiling for the Warriors? Now, they got to get through the play-in tournament. They play the Grizzlies. They win, they're in there, the 7. They play the Rockets. They lose, and they got to beat either the Kings or the Mavericks, whoever wins that, and then they would play the Thunder. I'm starting to think if they have to go up against the 2, that they could win 1 series against the Rockets. If they played the Thunder, I think the Thunder would win. So I would say the ceiling probably for the Warriors is winning 1 round, which is wild because a few weeks ago I thought they could maybe go to the NBA Finals. Are the Clippers a sleeper? It's tough for me to buy in on the Clippers. Now, Kawhi is healthy. I never liked, though, when James Harden is in the postseason. And also, this means they have to remain healthy for the postseason. It's one thing to be healthy now. Then if you're going to get through a long run and be a sleeper, you got to be healthy throughout that. I'm just not going to put stock in on the Clippers, even though Kawhi is one of the greatest mysteries ever. Will the Mike Malone fire in question 8 benefit the Nuggets? I'm probably going to say no on this one, but Nikola Jokic has a moment, and his game's already at the next level. He's the best player in the sport to take it to a different level because he would basically be a player coach winning a championship here. 9, is this it for Ja Morant in Memphis? He's immature, he does stupid celebrations, and he puts himself in so much controversy that is self-inflicted. With that being said, there's years left on that contract. I don't think it behooves the Memphis Grizzlies right now to get rid of Ja Morant. They may be frustrated, but I don't think that this is going to be the last run at it for Ja Morant with the Memphis Grizzlies. And then finally, here's question 10. Who has the best chance to shift the face of the league conversation right now? Because it's off of LeBron, it's off of Kevin Durant. Steph Curry has been there, right? When Giannis won, he was considered maybe the best player in the league, but not the face of the league. When Nikola Jokic won, he was considered the best player in the league, but not the face of the league. Last year, Anthony Edwards, even though they lost in the conference finals, that was a big conversation. I know Jason Tatum and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, they don't have the biggest personalities. But if Tatum could go win back-to-back championships and go win a finals MVP, you could have face of the league conversation there with Jason Tatum. And for SGA, he's going to win the MVP this year. If he could parlay that with a NBA championship and a finals MVP, even though a lot of us know about SGA, I think he will then get thrown into that face of the league conversation. But it's kind of like Patty Pimblett, right? The reverse way. Where for Patty Pimblett, it was always when he gets to the UFC, well, he does all the theatrics well, the drama, right? Outside of the octagon well. But can he match that in the octagon? For Tatum and SGA, Tatum we already know is matched it on the court. SGA sort of has as well as an MVP, but you got to go win a championship. Can you then match the off-the-court stuff with on-the-court stuff in order to catapult you to be the face of the league? So that's how I would answer that question. So those are 10 NBA questions entering the NBA playoffs. All righty, we will take a break. When we come on back, this Derek Carr story is fascinating. We talked about it last week, how he may miss the entirety of the season. Some people aren't buying the injury. This is juicy. Juicy, juicy, juicy with a lot of drama surrounding the Saints. We'll get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Yo, hour number 2 of our radio program. The new overnight host at the Infinity Sports Network is Pat Boyle. He'll be chopping it up with us 20 minutes from now. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Derek Carr. We talked about this at the end of last week. How there was a breaking news report, and it had to do with Derek Carr, and it was from Ian Rappaport, Rap Sheet. And it said the Saints suddenly have major QB questions. Starter Derek Carr is now dealing with a shoulder injury that threatens his availability for this season, sources say. Carr is weighing options, including the possibility of surgery. So we saw that at the end of last week and didn't really think much of it, right? All right, Derek Carr may miss the entirety of the season, probably the end of Derek Carr's time with the Saints, right? They restructured that contract, so we thought he was going to be there. But then this story comes out, and it's from a reputable name. It's from one of the top insiders covering the NFL, Ian Rappaport, right? If it comes from a Schefter, if it comes from a Rappaport, if it comes from a Pelissero, a Glazer, or now even, I'll say it, Jordan Schultz. After the Starbucks incident, Jordan Schultz has a lot of extra punch to him, and he's been moving up those rankings. He's been excellent on some of these stories. But anyway, when Ian Rappaport has a story like that, You just kind of take it as gospel, right? As fact. So that story did come and go. And let's be real, it's not as if Derek Carr really moves the needle that much anymore. In Derek Carr's own mind, he's the greatest thing ever. In his brother's mind, David Carr, Derek Carr's the greatest quarterback ever. And he always gets disrespected. And this is the one thing that bugs me with Derek Carr. It's always like the woe is me. And when you start to give up on him, when you start to doubt him, it's, we got screwed, we got slighted, it's the end of the world. So there's a lot, I guess, going on behind the scenes that we did not know. We'll share that in a second. But Stu, did you think twice about this story until I sent this link in our Slack earlier today, talking about how there's a lot more to this Derek Carr story?
Honestly, no. I just thought he had an injury, and that was kind of it. I really, honestly, on Friday, and since then, I didn't really think twice about it.
Yeah, right, because two things could happen. One, he gets a second opinion, and he's not going to miss the entirety of the season, and then it's okay how much of the season you're going to miss, or he's going to get the surgery, and then he's out for the rest of the season, he never plays again for the Saints. And then there was also that thought, okay, more and more momentum gaining towards Shedeur Sanders maybe getting taken at 9 with the Saints, because you have the possibility the Browns, Giants, and Raiders at 2, 3, and 6 all passing up on Shedeur Sanders, just the possibility of that being out there. So the reason why I thought about it more today is there was an article on Bleacher Report with something that Albert Breer said that we'll get to in just a second. But Adam Schefter, was on the ESPN with Unsportsmanlike, and this is what Adam Schefter, the preeminent, the number one NFL insider, no disrespect to Rappaport, Pelissero, Schultz, or Glazer, but Schefter's at the top of that food chain. The other four, right, they're right in there. They're the top 5 NFL insiders. But this is what Adam Schefter had to say when he was talking about this Derek Carr situation earlier this morning.
Yeah, I think there's more to this. I mean, again, this is my opinion, but the Saints have known about this. And the story comes out on a Friday night, 2 days before their voluntary off-season workout program begins. The timing is peculiar to me. The situation is peculiar to me. My own feeling is that there's more to this. And so I haven't figured out what that is yet.
So there's more to this. So maybe this was just because I assumed. But when you heard about the shoulder injury with Derek Carr, I don't know about you, Stu, but I just kind of assumed with how he got hurt at the end of the year and how Derek Carr is pretty much irrelevant now in the landscape of quarterbacks in the NFL, I just assumed that it was either the same injury and something was detected later on, or in training or something that he just got hurt, and right, that happens where there's damage is done. So I went back and looked it up. When he got hurt up against the Giants, I think it was in week 13 or 14, he had a few broken bones in his non-throwing hand. So he had broken bones in his non-throwing hand. Nothing to do with the shoulder here. So this is a new injury here. And it pops up out of nowhere. And could it just be, hey, guy gets hurt while training for the season? Sure. But it pops up, like Schefter said, before the voluntary OTAs are about to start, and also with the NFL draft right around the corner. Now, there is also a theory that maybe Derek Carr is seeing the writing on the wall here, and maybe Derek Carr is sitting back and he's saying to himself, I don't want to be Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, where they're going to take a quarterback in the top 10 of the draft. That's going to be their guy, and I don't want to be a part of that. I want to go somewhere else. Well, here's where I'll push back on that. I'm not saying Derek Carr doesn't want to feel that way. But if Schefter's now leaving the door open that there's something more to this, when it's right, a black or white issue, you're either hurt or you're not. Well, if Derek Carr is going to get traded, he's got to pass a physical. So is he hurt or is he not? Or is he just hurt right now because his feelings are hurt? And did they make up an injury that would possibly derail his entirety of the season? And also, it's like, how can you fake that? How can you fudge that if we're being serious? So there's a lot of meat on the bone with this story. And it's fascinating to me where the two biggest NFL insiders, Rappaport, the Saints suddenly have a major QB question. Starter Derek Carr is now dealing with a shoulder injury that threatens his availability for this season, sources say. Carr is weighing options, including the possibility of surgery. That's one report. Then Schefter on ESPN earlier this morning, hey, we haven't seen you really talk about much of Derek Carr. And let's be real. There's got to be some behind-the-scenes conversation there. Like, I don't know the complete genesis of the conversation, but I've done this long enough now, and I've made enough news. And also, I could kind of tell when a guest is getting set up. Hey, I know Evan Cohen was doing the interview, and he's a bright guy, and I used to work with Evan when I was for a quick sip of coffee. And no, that's not an Ian Rappaport, Jordan Schultz dig. But when I had a quick sip of coffee at Sirius, I worked with Evan. He's a very nice guy. So could Evan have heard something or been told something and then he wanted to throw it out to the Shefty? That could be an option. Or since Schefter and Evan Cohen work for the same network, maybe Schefter was like, hey, I kind of want to say something about this. So maybe ask me about this when we have our chat on ESPN radio. That could be a possibility. But Schefter then saying there's something more to this carries a lot of weight. And I mean a ton of weight. So Albert Breer, who does a great job with the Monday Morning Quarterback, he said when it came to the restructuring of the contract with Derek Carr, because, right, I thought another black or white issue. You restructure the contract. I also thought that both parties would have had to be involved in this. Well, it wasn't as restructured as we usually think about it. The door seemed closed on a trade in early March. This is what Albert Breer said via Bleacher Report. When the Saints converted $28.7 million of his $30 million base salary into a signing bonus, taking his base all the way down to the league minimum. In doing so, it locked New Orleans into paying that money for 2025, meaning if Carr was traded, the Saints would be paying Carr to play for someone else this fall. That's what Albert Breer wrote. He continued. The move also was made without Carr's blessing. Since the Saints had the contractual right to do that, it's common that teams have that conversation, that conversion lever written into a contract. So I guess this is a normal practice, and even if they have that right, you would still think that a conversation would go down. But if I'm Derek Carr, and maybe you, Stu or Santa could kind of clarify this for me, why would you be so upset if they converted pretty much most of your base salary into a signing bonus for this upcoming season, and now your salary for this year is the league minimum pretty much, but you're getting all that money anyway? So, like, to me, what's the big issue here? They converted $28.7 million of his $30 million base salary into a signing bonus. So your regular salary is going to be the league minimum, and then you're getting the rest of it in a signing bonus. And then if they trade you, they're paying your contract regardless. So what's the big deal here with Derek Carr? Because one would assume, he's miffed that they didn't have this conversation about the contract. I don't really see what the big deal is here on the Derek Carr side, why this would frustrate him.
I think part of it is, not being consulted about it is kind of insulting, but I think it's kind of like a string of events. If it was just this, he probably wouldn't care that much.
With the new coach coming into.
Correct. If it was just this, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. If there was not all these rumors and talk about them drafting a quarterback 9, it would not be as big of a deal.
Well, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I think that he's just annoyed at the organization because this is the Carr playbook. When someone starts to doubt you or someone starts to question you and Derek Carr views himself as a great underappreciated quarterback, and right, you could believe in yourself. I'm not saying don't believe in yourself, but you also have to be realistic at some point. I don't think what the Saints is doing whatsoever is unfair. If I'm the Saints, I'm trying to find my franchise quarterback. I don't believe Derek Carr is a franchise quarterback. But it does seem like the moment when someone gives up on Derek Carr or doubts Derek Carr or wants to do better than Derek Carr is like bleep the organization. Right? Because, Stu, I know the Josh McDaniels situation was a little bit more difficult, and I'm not defending Josh McDaniels. I think his idea was right in wanting to move off of Derek Carr, but the plan did not work out after that. Like, if you move off of Derek Carr, you can't just bring in Jimmy G. I don't even know if that's a lateral move. It's a lateral move at best. But you need to go get a Brady. You need to go get an Aaron Rodgers at the time. But Carr, didn't he leave the team? Right?
Yes. It was about a game or two left. I think it was one game left, and they were just like, all right, he's done playing for the year.
So is this Derek Carr's way? The Saints are giving up on me. I'm going to talk about this shoulder injury, and maybe it's legit. maybe there's more to this story, like Schefter's saying, and who knows? It's always tough when you speculate about someone's health. So maybe this is let's wait and see what happens in the draft. And is this just draft noise, or are they actually going to take a quarterback and they're going to put me on the clock? And if that's the case, I'll either hide behind this injury or try to find a way how to spin this injury or whatever the resolution is. I don't know. Maybe he just needs minor surgery. Maybe he could play through the entire of the season and hold off surgery till after the season. I don't know. So maybe that's what happens. Or the Saints don't take a quarterback. And let's say, like, not take a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Because third round and on, whatever. Doesn't mean that you're going to be a starting quarterback. Second round or earlier, you're probably thinking that one day you're going to start for that team. And if they don't end up doing that in the first 2 rounds, then maybe Carr's like, oh, I got a second opinion now. It was a scare. All is okay. There is something weird, though, here. When you factor in the injury, and now Schefter's kind of questioning it, in addition to this whole contractual situation, the way that it did go down. So Bleacher Report summarized it. They said to summarize, the Saints have a new head coach in Kellen Moore, who has never worked with Carr, replacing a head coach in Dennis Allen that he had a long history with. There were trade rumors regarding the quarterback throughout the offseason, generally a sign of potential disconnect, and the Saints shut them down by restructuring Carr's deal without consulting him, and now Carr is considering surgery on an injury that wasn't public before a few days ago, with uncertainty on whether the Saints knew the severity of the issue. So is this a game of a level of pettiness where it's like, oh, you didn't tell me about the contract, so now I have this injury. We don't really know the severity of this injury, so we'll keep it ambiguous, but now I'm going to tell you about the injury or leak it to Ian Rappaport. Man, oh, man. I'm fascinated to see what the Saints do in the draft. I am. Not really because of the Derek Carr factor, just if Shedeur is there at 9, will they take him? Or is it what Todd McShay said, where maybe they'll end up taking Jackson Dart because they think Jackson Dart's a better fit for Kellen Moore? Could you imagine if Shedeur's there at 9 and they end up taking Jackson Dart? Jeez. I will be having a lot of tweets, a lot of videos that night on social media. I will be fuming. I will be furious, Samter.
It sounds ridiculous, but when you hear Todd McShay give his reasoning...
Oh, he did a good job explaining it.
It just sounds logical. It could be ridiculous. They would get ripped apart in a way, but it just makes sense the way McShay explains it.
No, he did a good job explaining it. I just still vehemently disagree because I don't think Jackson Dart is very good. I think Shedeur Sanders is very good.
And it really brings up the question between quarterback talent versus system fit.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about this system guy who was like the perfect fit for that system, and the coach. And we've seen so many talented quarterbacks fail, not necessarily by their own fault, but because they were just with the wrong organization, the wrong coaches, the wrong system, wrong offensive coordinator.
Here's what doesn't match up for me. Shedeur, they say, is NFL ready. Shedeur, they say, is a pocket passing quarterback. And he's all about accuracy and precision, and his arm is very good. I feel like you could work, if you're a good coach, you could work with that. If that's what the bare minimum way that we talk about Shedeur Sanders. So I'm fascinated to see what the Saints do in this draft. Stu, give me a team that you're fascinated by on what they're going to do in the draft.
I would say the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think there's intrigue there because obviously they could stay at 21. They could just take any random player. But the Aaron Rodgers saga, I think, makes it interesting because they can either take a quarterback there if either Shedeur or Dart or whoever falls to them there. They could trade up to take a quarterback. They could give Rodgers a deadline and say, we're good, we're going to take a quarterback. So I just think whatever the Steelers decide to do, if they decide to go quarterback in the first round, intrigues me a lot.
And could you imagine if Shedeur Sanders winds up in Pittsburgh? That would actually be fun. And if I'm Shedeur, when you look at it, Giants, Cleveland, Raiders, Saints, or Pittsburgh with DK Metcalf and George Pickens, I would love to be a Pittsburgh Steeler if I'm Shedeur Sanders. Samter, who's your team?
I'm going to go the Cleveland Browns because I think we're pretty clear they're not going quarterback 2, but will they go Travis Hunter? Will they go Abdul Carter? That's the first question.
I would say Hunter right now, yeah.
The next question is, are they going to make a trade for Kirk Cousins?
Ooh.
Or if they don't, are they really going to the season with Kenny Pickett or
Joe Flacco?
Or Joe Flacco as the starting quarterback? And
Joe's
then
elite.
The third question for me is, are they trading back up into the first round, maybe into like the teens or the early 20s to get a Shedeur or a Jackson Dart? So there's so many questions about what the Browns could do. It reminds me, if you remember back when Johnny Manziel was going to get drafted.
Yeah.
Everyone thought they were going to take Manziel like second, third, or fourth, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. They didn't. but then they end up trading back up into the first round and taking Manziel anyway. And so it kind of reminds me of that same situation where they might trade back in and get their quarterback.
And also, they're sitting with their second round pick, 33rd. I think for sure Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are going to go in the first round. If maybe this is all smokescreen with Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe, there's a possibility that you take Travis Hunter at 2 and then sitting there at the second round pick, right? As they're sitting there with the 33rd pick in the second round. So that's the first pick in the second round. Maybe that they end up getting their quarterback there if it's Dart or if it's a Milroe, whoever may be available. All righty, we'll take a timeout. When we come on back, the new overnight host at the Infinity Sports Network, he's no stranger to this network, he's no stranger to this program, Pat Boyle is going to join us on the other side. And you know what? We'll see how big of an ego Pat has. Because if Pat is late, if he's not on time, if he blows us off, then let me tell you, there could be fisticuffs already between us and the new overnight show.
I will just tell you this. I've texted him, sent him stuff. He hasn't responded back once to me. He might not even show up.
Oh, he's like Warren Sapp with you. Now let's see if he's Warren Sapp with me. I think it could be a little bit different. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Big announcement earlier this morning right here on many of these same Infinity Sports Network affiliates. If you didn't hear it on one of the affiliates you're listening to right now, you could always check out Pat Boyle now as the new overnight host on Sirius XM, channel 375, and the always free Odyssey app. Pat Boyle is a friend. He's also a colleague, and now he's a big wig around here. He went from update anchor, fill-in host, tape op, doing everything. Pat Boyle never said no to any shifts, really. And there'd be days where I would see him doing updates and then producing later that night. Obviously, he took over for me doing the 8-hour whip-around show on Sundays and did a phenomenal job this past NFL season. But now this is the first Monday through Friday full-time gig as a radio host, as he's going to be the new host, replacing Amy Lawrence, who left our network a few months ago. And Pat has taken over that 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern time slot, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Pacific. And Patty Boyle, who I once dumped an entire thing of oil on back to the DA days when we were doing a Bob's Bar show, is kind enough to join us right now. Pat, first and foremost, congratulations. I would ask you how you're doing. But I've seen the slobber fest on the internet, so I know you're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Zach? Well, I appreciate that intro you gave me, and I'm surprised that the fact that you oiled me came at the very end of it. But yeah, I'm doing great, man. And thanks for everything you said. It means a lot. Thanks for being in my corner and being somebody that I've looked up to, literally and metaphorically, because you're a giant over the last couple of years.
So what is the Pat Boyle? It's the Pat Boyle show, right?
Correct.
Maybe we go the Pat Boyle extravaganza, the Pat Boyle experience. I'm not going to tinker too much with what you're doing, but I know who you are as a person and also a host. Tell the listeners that maybe not be familiar with you, which I don't know how they're not familiar with you, what they can anticipate and expect weekdays, weeknights, week morning, whatever it is, Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, well, maybe they should have given you creative rights control over the name. I figured I'd keep it short, sweet, simple. I don't know if I wanted to rip off Joe Rogan and go with the Pat Boyle experience. I figured just the Pat Boyle show was short and simple. But yeah, for those that don't know me, what you can expect every single night is passionate, strong opinions. I grew up in Central New Jersey listening to WFN in New York. So Mike Francesa and Chris Russo, Mike and the Mad Dog, was my show that I grew up on. So hardcore sports talk, passionate opinions. You're going to agree with me wholeheartedly a lot of the times. You're going to think I'm an idiot, and you're going to disagree and think that I have no idea what I'm talking about other times. But you know that no matter what, you're going to get a genuine opinion. It's not fabricated stuff. It's the real deal. I think Zach, you know how passionate I am about sports and how we're watching games every single night. So you're going to get the best. You're going to get a full clip every single show, and I'm going to bring my absolute best. But also on top of that, whether it was 2 to 6 a.m. or whatever slot, like I'm going to try to have as much fun as possible. And the humor is going to be built into the show. I got the great Pete Bellotti as the producer. So I'm sure Pete's going to bust my chops. I'm going to bust his. We're going to bust callers' chops. They're going to bust ours. And, with the occasional guest that I will have on, It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a great one. It's going to be somebody that comes on and they're entertaining as hell, and I want the rest of the country and the world to hear them, or somebody that is just so damn smart that, I'm not spending 15, 20 minutes in the middle of the night when people are live. They want to be entertained. They're up for a reason, whether it's work or they can't sleep, or maybe they are listening back later in the day. I'm not wasting people's time here. So I turn on that microphone and it's 4 hours, balls to the wall, every single show.
Now, I will say I have a few dates here. Samter had May 2025. Stu has October of 2025. I have July of 2027. Any idea what those dates are for?
Is that what, when I get fired?
No, we have a pool of when you're going to say something controversial and get canceled, honestly. Because I'm being honest, out of all the people, like the part-time people that they would bring in and would work on my show, whether it was weekend overnights or whether it was 6 to 10 or now 3 to 6, whenever I would go to Pat Boyle, and this is a good thing, I would never know what the heck he was going to say. And we told this story. We actually spent the first 15 minutes saying a bunch of nice things about you, and also getting on Samter, by the way, in a nice little suck-up spot, doing a reply all to a company email congratulating you. I could just reach to the side, do a little text message, stuff like that. But I'll never forget when I was working with you once on TV and radio, and you basically were like, Pete Carroll's going to drop dead on the sideline. I was like, oh, Pat, what are we doing? So there's always a line. And Pat Boyle sometimes will cross the line, but usually it's very entertaining when you do cross the line. You know that.
Yeah, look, sometimes you got to toe the line, and hopefully I don't go too far over. But I guess the good thing is, if you're listening live, then again, it's on basically every single station across the country in North America. So maybe I better watch out and be careful. But
let it rip.
Yeah, no, look, I appreciate that. I mean, that's what I tell you. Sometimes there's no filter for better or for worse. So that's why, when I do say something, it's coming straight from the dome, straight from the heart, one way or another.
Now, something I will not tolerate, by the way, and I will go after you if you do this, because I know you're very good with the NFL. You're a Notre Dame honk, but you're very good with college football. Basketball, you're a Knicks honk, but you're very good overall with the NBA. If I tune in and I can't go to sleep, and I have to hear tennis talk and soccer talk from Pat Boyle, who slobbers over soccer and is a tennis freak, we're going to have a conversation, Patty.
Look, man, all I'm saying is the French Open's coming up next month, so you better be ready, because it's going to be live when I'm on the air at 5 a.m. Eastern. So get ready for plenty of. No, I'm just kidding. But I love all sports. There's no sports that I will shoulder to the side, even soccer and tennis. Me, Stu, and Samter were just talking about soccer right before this segment started.
Yeah, that's why it wasn't on the air with us. We're not going to continue that conversation. So where you at with Notre Dame? I know that I guess they're not going after Nico Iamaleava, but it doesn't seem like he has much of a market. Coming off the successful season where you wanted Marcus Freeman fired, and then he goes on to a championship game. I know you and Stu were in lockstep on that. And I don't blame you after what happened up against NIU with Northern Illinois. But where's your confidence with the Fighting Irish heading into this football season?
It's pretty high. I mean, I was, again, hand up in the air. I was wrong about Marcus Freeman. I questioned his ability as an in-game coach after the debacle against Northern Illinois, the debacle the year before that against Ohio State late in the game, not having the amount of guys right on the field. Just fourth quarter decision-making was normally atrocious. Remember 2 years ago, they lost at home to Marshall too?
Yeah. Charles Huff, yeah.
So I thought it was rock bottom when they lost to Northern Illinois. I said, cancel the season, it's over, and then they literally go on a run all the way to the national title game. So something changed within Marcus Freeman. Something changed within that program. He's always been a great recruiter. The program should never have a problem with NIL money. Their academic standards is the reasoning in the past that they always get to the college football playoff and then get usually get crushed by the Alabamas or the Clemsons or the what have yous. So look, I'm looking forward to sustained success for Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and they'll be back in the playoff this year. They'll be making a run at the title game once again.
So I heard you're open. I wasn't listening live. I used the rewind function on the free Odyssey app. Good company guy right there, as Pat Boyle is here with us, joining us in the day he takes over the overnight shift here at the network. Now full-time host. You catch him Monday through Fridays from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern. And I saw like a pre-show tweet. You had a problem with Coach Prime having Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, their numbers going to get retired in a few days, 2 and 12. Is that what I was reading right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, have
What's the
a
issue?
little bit. Have a little bit of feel. Act like you've been there before. Act like you're a program that won a national title back in 1990. Not a program where, oh, we won one game 2 years ago. They've literally saved us.
Yeah, they were
No.
irrelevant. They were
Well, no,
irrelevant.
Colorado
Those two guys
won 10
saved that
games.
program with Coach Prime.
Colorado's had 2 different seasons where they've won 10 games within each of the last 20 years. So, like, literally within each of the past 10 years, give or take, there's a season where they've won 10 games. They've been a great program. They had a down year. They had a down couple of years, a lean period. Now they were in the Big 12. They're getting the Big 12 money. It's what Deion Sanders has done has been fantastic. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, if you want to tell me they're going to retire their numbers in 10 years from now, hell, even 5 years from now, I have no problem with it. Travis Hunter literally won the Heisman Award. Shedeur Sanders is probably going to get drafted in the top 5. I think my official prediction is he goes 3 to the Giants. But either way, like, they won 13 games in 2 years combined. They were there for 2 years, and they had a combined 13-12 record. Has anybody from that 1990 national championship team have their number retired? You want to retire in a couple years? Fine. 4 months later at the spring game to use it as a cheap and comical recruiting tool? I mean, come on. You can't recruit based off of Deion Sanders' name alone and what they've done to elevate that program. Now you got to retire numbers basically anytime somebody has a good year. Come on.
I don't think that's going to be the case, to be fair. Also, it's almost like Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, because I'm a believer, by the way, friend of the show, Coach Prime. He's on borrowed time there at Colorado. I know they just got the new deal done and all that stuff, but you don't know how long this is going to last, so he's going to do it his way. Personally, I have no problem with it whatsoever, and I can't get all fired up, but that's what's going to get people going now in the overnights, because Pat Boyle's going to give you takes like that. Then you're going to call him up at 888-710-4ISN, and you're going to call him a moron. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to go back and forth each and every night, and it's going to be really fun and a good listen. All right, NBA topic for you. Right now, are the Celtics, are they going to get back to the NBA Finals out of the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, they will. They will. Jaylen Brown, I want to see what his knee looks like as the playoffs progress. But last year, the Celtics had probably the luckiest ride to the finals, and then they decimated, they annihilated Luka and Kyrie and the Mavs anyway. And they did most of that without Kristaps Porzingis. But remember, they faced a banged-up Cleveland team that then lost Donovan Mitchell. They faced a banged-up Indiana team that then lost Tyrese Halliburton. I still think the Celtics are deep enough, even if Jaylen Brown has to miss a stretch of games, or if he's not 100%, they have proven time and time and time again. Jason Tatum, Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday, plus the depth, the bench guys they got coming off the bench could start for probably half the teams in the NBA with Pritchard and what Hauser's able to do for them shooting threes and Luke Cornett. They're deep, they're loaded, they're lethal. Their motivation is still right there to try to repeat. Cleveland had a better regular season, but that series won't even go 7 if it goes to the Eastern Conference Finals. Boston is just that much better than everybody else in the East, and they'll be going back to the finals.
Remember, Cleveland, a big market for you now. You may have to start sucking up and being a Browns fan again and having the pom-poms out for the Cavs. I'm just letting you. 92.3 The Fan, very good affiliate for that overnight show.
Cleveland, this is for you. I'll be saying that when they get swept in the conference finals by Boston. Cavs have been a great team this year, but and I know that they've done great against Boston in the regular season. They've shown their mettle, and they've proved it. But, again, Donovan Mitchell, he had a couple of really, really insane postseasons when he was with Utah. I don't think he's capable of going and scoring 35 points a game and shooting 42% from deep, which is what he's going to have to do to beat Boston. And you're gonna have to get an incredible performance from Darius Garland night in and night out. And their bigs, Mobley and Allen, are gonna have to contend with Porzingis. And when they get stretched out to the perimeter, that's where Boston takes over. It's their ability to hit 33s on any given night and just outshoot teams. And yeah, they might have one off day like they did against Miami last year in that conference series. They might have one off day against the Mavs, but they are just pound for pound better. So yeah, the great folks of Cleveland. I mean, what am I going to do? Suck up to every city I'm on? I'm too many cities in that time slot.
You could. I basically did it, and it worked out pretty damn well for me. Pat Boyle, you said Shedeur Sanders 3 to the Giants, so I'm assuming you have Cam Ward going 1 to the Tennessee Titans. Then 2, you do have the Cleveland Browns, I'm assuming, taking Travis Hunter, and then it's Shedeur 3 to the Giants. Is that what you're doing?
Yep, that's how I think it's going. And look, I think Cleveland, speaking of Cleveland, I think they're a bunch of morons if they don't draft Shedeur Sanders.
Oh,
but
so we're in lockstep on this. I think the Browns and Giants, Shedeur's there, they should take him. I don't think either will. Maybe more so today on the Giants just because of this meeting that's going down on Thursday. But the line of thinking I'm at today is that Travis Hunter goes 2, Abdul Carter goes 3. I want Abdul Carter for my Patriots at 4, and I'm just feeling like I'm going to get screwed here and I'm not going to get him. And then maybe they use the Panthers to move up from their second-round pick, the Browns and the Giants, to go get Shedeur at maybe 8 or something like that. That's what I was thinking today.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cleveland's going into this season now with Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco as their quarterbacks. I think Jimmy Haslam's comments about Deshaun Watson, you can all but close the book on Deshaun Watson as a Browns quarterback, and he stinks anyway. So yeah. Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco is an awfully interesting combo, but, I mean, maybe it's going to be, tank for Arch or tank for somebody else if you're the Cleveland Browns this year, because I don't see them having any kind of success with those two guys at quarterback.
So do me a favor. There's a legendary story around here. You once slept on Boomer Esiason's couch in his office, and you took a drink out of his fridge, and then you left him a note. Tell that story for people that are not familiar with it, because it's incredible. From that Pat Boyle to becoming one of the more hardest working people around here and taking every shift thrown your way, that Pat Boyle to the Pat Boyle that's sitting here today as the new overnight host here on the network, it's kind of an incredible rise.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple more gray hairs in the side of my head. There's a couple of more thin mustache hairs that have grown in. And, you've got the glasses that I know everybody loves here at the radio station that people like to call me Jeffrey Dahmer for. So that's fun. Always getting that comp. That's definitely a comp I'd like to continue to get.
Yeah, don't drive a van here when you're coming to the studio now. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, again, when I got here, the first couple of weeks of working at Odyssey at WFAN and here at the network, I was doing a double shift. I had to call an LIU Brooklyn basketball game at 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. I was doing an overnight Friday shift, so I was like, all right, instead of going back to New Jersey where I'm from, why don't I just sleep at the station? I'll bring my suit, hang it in the car, change into it in the morning and Saturday morning, and then go off to Brooklyn. And Boomer Esiason, the great 1984 MVP quarterback and one-time Super Bowl appearance, 0-time Super Bowl winner. Boomer left his office open, and I didn't know if that was a common occurrence or not. So I said, why not? I took a walk in. It has a nice black sofa leather couch. I was like, all right, this looks good for a nap. I wasn't familiar with the lay of the land of our station and the sales office and the couches that resided back there just yet.
The Four Seasons, yeah.
I took a nap on Boomer's couch, and I decided, he doesn't know me. I'll see him every now and then when I work an overnight locally. If he's coming in for his show and I'm leaving, I say hi to him. I'm not going to stop the guy and basically give him a whole life story. So I was like, all right, let him know who I am. Write a note, say, hey, Boomer, thanks for the couch. Talk about great hospitality. And he had a fridge with some Guinness in there. And I said, by the way, solid effing choice on the Guinness. I mean, I thought that's something, if I read as a note, I would have said, I want to get to know this guy. This guy's cool. And unfortunately, that kind of had the exact opposite result. But
it actually worked out well for you in a good way because it put you on their radar. So I actually give you credit for it, even if I wouldn't have gone about it that way. But ultimately it worked. Now you're a full-time host here inside the company. Last thing I'll say to you, Pat, obviously I was in your fantasy league. I still am. And I'll never forget your father, who unfortunately passed away in November. So I didn't know your father well, but he was in that fantasy league when he drafted like the Cleveland Browns in the 6th round of a fantasy football draft, and we all got to laugh about that. But I know you've talked about this, and we've talked about it before, how much your dad was such a big advocate for you in pursuing this dream, and I know he'd be very happy with the news that did come out today. So, I just wanted to bring that up. I'd be remiss if I didn't do so. And I'll also say this, if you want to know about the dedication that Pat Boyle has for a job like that, when his dad passed away, a day or two later, you were doing an 8-hour show on Gridiron Game Day, the Whip Around show, and you would not even be able to tell that you lost your dad that day. So I know this is going to make it an awkward ending, but I would feel bad if I didn't bring up and at least acknowledge your dad, because I know how proud he was of you each and every time you got a chance to host, whether it was here or on WFAN.
Yeah, that means a lot, Zach. Thanks, man. Really appreciate that. He was my role model. He was my idol. He was my biggest fan. He would stay up in the middle of the night listening, 3 a.m. if I'm doing a show. And he said, Dad, just use the app and rewind and go back in the day. And, the boomer technology riddled man that he was, he goes, no, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that, Patty. I'm listening live. I'm like, all right, dude. Now you're going to go out and you're going to work with 2 hours of sleep. But that was the kind of guy he was. So, yeah, I appreciate you telling that story. And I know that he'd be really, really proud. And, not a day goes by that I miss him. So at least I know that he's up above listening every night that I'm on the air. He doesn't have to worry about sleep now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Don't have to worry about an app up there because, everything's, paradise, obviously, up above in heaven. Well, anyway, Pat, we are really, 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 really happy for you. It's well-deserved, and you can check out Pat Boyle coming up this morning, I guess, or tomorrow morning from 2 to 6 a.m. on the East Coast, or later tonight if you're on the West Coast at 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Pacific. So we appreciate it. Congratulations, Pat. Real happy for you.
Zach, appreciate that, man. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that you single-handedly got me this job.
Oh, no, that's not true. Do not do that. That is not true whatsoever. I had no say and no real role in this process. Get him off the air. That's done. We're now fighting with Pat Boyle. We are fighting at, Dunzo. You know how many people now are going to hit me up that didn't get this job? You advocated for Pat. You got Pat the job. Oh, my goodness gracious. Pat just threw a grenade while he exited right on this show. My phone's already blowing up. Oh, my goodness gracious. Oh, my God. It's a good job. Well done. Pat got one over me there. There's no doubt about that. Update time. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Hickey, line 1. Yesterday was Patrick Peterson. Today, another future Hall of Famer announced his retirement with 8-time Pro Bowl left tackle Tyron Smith calling it a career. He spent 12 of his 13 seasons with the Cowboys, spending last year with the Jets. Smith went 4 spots after Peterson. The 2011 draft selected 9th overall. The Dolphins reportedly looking to move on from Jalen Ramsey, but not Tyreek Hill. GM Chris Greer said they talked with the 7-time Pro Bowl corner and said it was in everyone's best interest to move on. The Bucs' Damian Lillard will reportedly miss the start of the playoffs due to the blood clot that has kept him out for the last month. The NBA play-in tournament begins tonight with the 7th seed up for grabs in the East and West. The Magic host the Hawks in the opener tomorrow night after the two teams split the season series. Atlanta is in this spot for the 4th straight year, and Trae Young hoping to take care of business tonight.
We know we have 2 games at it, but we want to get in after the first game. So we don't want to just wait to play another playing game here. We want to play game 3 and 4 here. So that's my mindset, and hopefully we can go out and execute it.
The winner faces the defending champion Celtics in the first round. Out west, it's the Warriors and Grizzlies battling after the two finished with identical records. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this portion of the Zach Gelb Show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage, no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. So Nico Iamaleava, he is obviously hitting the transfer portal, which the spring window opens up tomorrow. Before someone chimes in and they say, oh, he should transfer to an SEC school, you cannot in the spring transfer portal window. If you're going from one SEC school, you cannot go to another SEC school. So that's one thing out there. There was some talk about Oregon and Notre Dame. Well, Dan Lanning, allegedly, we don't have it confirmed, but he may have been the one that tipped off Josh Heupel that people were contacting him about Nico Iamaleava. Oregon is supposedly not interested. Notre Dame has been floated out there. Now, Notre Dame, I think, paid Riley Leonard $1.5 million last year. So Nico wants 4. He had 2. supposedly at Tennessee. So I don't think that's going to be likely. UNC was also speculated with Belichick. Supposedly UNC is out. Tulane and UCLA were also speculated. And I read today from On3 Sports that Tulane is out on Tennessee's Nico Iamaleava. So where the heck are you going? UCLA has been talked about. Clay Travis has thrown out Syracuse, Texas Tech as well. And then Clay also said Nico is probably should just do what George Costanza did and just show back up at Tennessee and pretend he never left. This guy just grossly miscalculated this. And, well, actually, his father grossly miscalculated this. He thought he could strong-arm Tennessee because no one really says no here. The player usually wins from 2-4, right? That didn't work. Tennessee said, we're done with you. Goodbye. You're about to break up with us. No, we'll break up with you. So then you float out UNC, Tulane, UCLA. Supposedly Tulane and UNC are already out. So what leverage do you have to go get more money from UCLA? Or Texas Tech or a Syracuse, like whoever it is. You don't have a lot of leverage there. And you're already making $2 million at Tennessee. So you may be making less money now. If I'm one of these schools, though, and I don't care about the money, I just want to go try to win, and there's still a question of what Nico Iamaleava could be. If I'm Notre Dame, at this rate, if you're Nico, you don't really have a leg to stand on, don't you just suck it up and take what you were getting from Tennessee, or if it's even less than that, to just go play at a school like Notre Dame? And maybe that's how you get Notre Dame more interested? Or you go to one of these schools that are maybe out that will go back in on you just if the price does drop? But if I'm him, you left the SEC. You left Tennessee. You left $2 million. And this is blowing up right in front of you. This is ugly. Santa, look like you wanted to say something there?
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like it really matters to him where he plays. He could go to a group of 5 school as long as he gets his bag. We saw Malachi Nelson, first go from USC to Boise.
Now, how'd that work out for him?
And then he left Boise. I forgot what school he went to, but he's going to, UTEP, I think.
Yeah, but these schools like that, they're not going to have $4 million to pay this kid.
I mean, if they decide to give their entire NIL bag,
yeah, and that would be stupid. That would be dumb.
For a 5-star recruit, the number 2 recruit in the class.
And was he sensational last year?
As a freshman, he led them to the playoffs. He wasn't sensational, but he was pretty good.
He wasn't even thought to be a top 10 quarterback entering the season in college football. And then you're going to pay nobody else? That's not going to work in college. So he's not going to get $4 million. He's not going to get 3. Can he even get 2? What he was getting while he left Tennessee. This is ugly. And yes, you should listen to your father. Yes, you should use your father as a resource. But man, when you make a decision and your father gave you bad information, that's a tough one to recover from. And Nico needed to make his own decision here. He did, and it's not working.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Yo, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is a Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It is a Tuesday. We are inching closer and closer to the NFL draft. We are 9 days away. Let's go. I want it to be Thursday of next week. I want to see what happens here in the first round of this NFL draft. I want to see where Shedeur Sanders goes. I want to see where Travis Hunter goes. I want to see where Abdul Carter goes. I want to see where Alligator Arms Will Campbell goes. I want to see where Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren do go. I'm fascinated. I got a lot of questions. And also, I say that jokingly about Will Campbell, because I've actually been defending Will Campbell. I think the short arms nonsense is just absolutely ridiculous.
He's going to be your left tackle.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I have no problem with that. If Will Campbell's my left tackle, I'm good. I would just rather have the preference be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. That would be my Abdul 1, Travis Hunter 2. If not, then I'm good with taking an offensive lineman with the 4th overall pick. We got to protect Drake May. There's no doubt about that. So I have other preferences, but he's still a top 3 preference for me in Will Campbell. I may actually donate him an inch or 2 from my arms so he can then become a franchise left tackle. That is what I would do. I would have surgery done, chop off an inch or 2 of my arms, and then send them to Will Campbell, have him go under the knife, and then he gets an extra inch or 2 when it comes to the arm department there.
While you're at it, can you chop off some of your legs and donate them to me?
Yeah, I also just give you 30 pounds. Is that good? I'll give you some height, but I'll also give you some more weight.
Yeah, like in the arm area, maybe, like in like the bicep area.
Wherever you want. You want it in the biceps, you want it in the legs, maybe your cheeks a little bit too, for Samter.
The other cheeks.
Baby cheeks, not your behind.
Oh, so these
Come
cheeks
on,
or
yes.
those cheeks?
You look like a chipmunk. Well, make you look like a chipmunk there. That's what we'll end up having you there with Samter. But anyway, we are 9 days away from the NFL draft, so let's do a little overreaction, proper reaction, NFL draft style. Stu, take it away.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
By the way, I wasn't looking at Samter while we were talking there because he was doing this T-Rex thing. I didn't know the camera was on you. So I got that delayed on my feed, and then I see Samter with the little T-Rex arms. You're a good T-Rex. When your daughter, when she turns 3, right? She's 2 already. When she turns 3, you could do a little T-Rex dress up. That's a cheap option there for a birthday party. What did you do for the second? Did you do a second birthday party or anything like that?
Yeah, we actually were down in Florida and got to see.
That's right.
My parents were there, her parents were down there, and we had a big birthday party. We went to the zoo. She got to see her first tiger.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of cool.
She gonna be the Tiger Queen now? Remember Joe Exotic? Remember that during the pandemic? Tiger King?
Yeah. Thank you.
Were you big into Tiger King?
I was huge into it, but I don't want her to be anywhere near that world.
So she won't be the next Carol Baskin? Is what you're saying. I remember I refused. That was my shtick on the air during COVID. I said, I will not watch it. Everyone's hyping this up. It's probably stupid. And then I eventually just bended the knee, genuflected, and said, okay, I'm going to watch it. And then I became really into it. And we ended up having one of the experts that lived with Joe Exotic. He was doing a podcast on, and he emailed my producer at the time, Mike Bisegli, and he goes, that was the most extensive, comprehensive, thought-provoking interview I've ever done, because I was grilling him as if it was like an executive that we didn't like, or if it was a player that said something controversial. I was grilling this guy. I was like, do you think Carol Baskin killed her husband? And it was really good stuff. So I enjoyed that whole documentary.
That's all we had. We had that in The Last Dance. That's what we had for a few months there.
Yeah, that's right. And then also a bunch of food topics, too.
Yes.
I remember I was living home with my parents for about 4 or 5 months at the beginning of COVID before I said I'm just going back to my apartment in New York City. And I would have my dad make me food during the 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time shift, and we would just sample his food on the air. Like made wings one night, meatballs another night. So those are actually surprisingly fun days. And then Friday nights is when I would turn up a little bit. So the show would end at 10. I don't know if you guys did this with your friends. Would you jump on Zoom and just talk with your friends and basically just have parties with your friends?
Yes.
We did poker tournaments. Like me and 6 or 7 of my buddies would do online poker. Like we would join a table together and
there
do
was
poker.
Also so many games that I didn't know existed that I found out existed during COVID. So I may or may not. Should I say this? Yeah, I'll say it. Whatever. I may or may not, in the last half hour of the show, would take something that would maybe then kick in about 30 to 40 minutes later. So when I was off the air, I was feeling nice and chill. That's how I would say it. That's what I ended up doing a few times.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to those shows to see maybe you took one a little early.
No. I would always wait till after the update. After the update. And you know me, I'm never on time with the update, so.
But you never know. Sometimes it says 30-minute kick in. Sometimes it kicks in faster than you think.
Yeah, it's a possibility. So maybe like the last 30 seconds of the show. Bro, feeling nicey. Sound like John Gruden there for a second. Anyway, overreaction, proper reaction time. Stu, what do we got cooking here?
All right, so
Stu's like, yeah, I did all that during COVID, except I was here running the board.
Did all that during COVID? You're doing it right now. What do you think he's...
All right, anyways, the Steelers are somehow still waiting on word from Aaron Rodgers with
Stu, walk in a straight line. Let's see it right now. Why are your eyes so red? All right, continue. Go ahead.
So the Steelers are somehow still waiting on word from Rodgers with the draft just over a week away. Many have pegged the Steelers as a potential landing spot for Shedeur or Jackson Dart at 21, or potentially taking a quarterback in the second or third round. Overreaction or proper reaction, the Steelers must move on from Rodgers if he doesn't give them an answer by draft day.
That's an overreaction. Because what happens if they don't get a quarterback in the draft that they feel like could start this year? What are you going to do, start Mason Rudolph? I don't really think the Steelers have much leverage here. They know they can get Rodgers. They know Rodgers really doesn't have much leverage either. But you still have to wait on him to make the decision. So could they say, yeah, we're moving on, and then Rodgers is screwed? Sure, but I don't think that's likely with the options that are out there. So if I am the Steelers, I'm trying to go get Shedeur Sanders. If I can't get him, then I know I have Rodgers in the back pocket. So the Steelers must move on from Rodgers if he doesn't give them an answer by draft day. I'm going to go overreaction there because they could always end up divorcing him after draft day.
The Dolphins and
Or I guess it wouldn't be a divorce. It'd be like having your wedding and then just leaving Rodgers at the altar on the wedding day. Yeah.
The Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey have agreed to explore trade options for the three-time All-Pro corner. Miami sent a third-round pick to the Rams in 2023 to land Ramsey, and are reportedly looking to unload the 30-year-old seven-time Pro Bowler before the draft. Overreaction or proper reaction, you would trade a third-round pick for Ramsey right now.
So you'd have to give up basically the same that it cost to go get him when the Dolphins ended up getting him. I would say that's an overreaction. Now, he has a few years left on the contract. I don't know how that's going to age with him not being a free agent again until 2029. So this is probably his final deal. Now, they could always alter it and things like that. But no, I don't feel inclined to give a player who's now getting up there in age at that position a third-round pick for him. So I would go overreaction there. I wouldn't give up a third-round pick.
Tyler Warren is a lock to go in the first round and could go as early as 7 to the Jets. But the Penn State star made a surprising decision. While 17 players accepted invitations to Green Bay for the draft, Warren chose to decline and stay home with his friends and family. Overreaction or proper reaction, you believe Tyler Warren will be a better NFL tight end than Brock Bowers?
Well, let me ask you this question first. So, Stu, if you knew you were going in the first round of the draft, foregone conclusion, you're going in the top 15 picks of the draft that Tyler Warren will. Would you want to do something with your friends and family, or would you rather go to the draft and have that moment where you walk out on the stage, even if you can only bring 6 or 7 family members?
I think I would want the moment with Goodell on the stage.
Samter, what would you do?
Yeah, I would have my close friends and family there with me in the green room so I can have the best of both worlds. So if I knew I was a lock for top 15, but if I was in that 20 to 40 range,
you could drop out of the first round?
Yeah, I'm not taking that chance of having cameras on me, especially if I'm a high profile figure.
I could see myself being at a nice Italian restaurant with 50 people and doing a party. But I would probably rather want the moment walking on the podium, because it's the last time that you'll probably really want to shake hands with Roger Goodell, if I'm being honest. So I think that could actually be more fun. So I would say, you know what, we'll have a party afterwards with friends and family, when I get back into town. And, you invite the 5 or 6 family members that you can to the draft. You know how many passes you end up getting. And I think I'd still rather be there. But I believe that Tyler Warren will be a better NFL tight end than Brock Bowers. That's the question. I'm going to go a slight overreaction. Brock Bowers also had one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen in the history of the sport this past year at tight end. I think Tyler Warren's going to be a stud. Brock Bowers is more successful in college and then also had this unbelievable rookie season. So I think Brock Bowers is better, but slightly better, because I think the world of Tyler Warren. So I will go overreaction there.
There are 3 quarterbacks expected to go in the first round, including Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart. However, quarterback...
Are we in that category now where we're expecting Jackson Dart to go in the first round still?
I think so.
Samter, you as well?
Yeah, I think it's starting to get to that point.
Okay.
But I guess we'll see. However, there are quarterbacks like Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, Tyler Shuck, and Will Howard, who all could hear their names in the first 3 rounds as well. Well, this week, Will Howard joined ESPN's Hey Rookie in the Buckeye National Championship. The national champion.
He lost to Michigan, by the way. He did win a national championship, but he did lose to Michigan this year.
Yeah, he made a pretty bold claim.
What makes you feel like we should draft you? Why Will Howard?
I love you asked that, man. I feel like my whole career I've been overlooked. I didn't have an offer from Pitt. I didn't have an offer from Syracuse. I didn't have an offer from Boston College, Penn State, Duke, Carolina. None of those schools offered me. I was trying for years. And I went to Kansas State and I said, I want to prove those people wrong. I hope Penn State looks back and say, damn, we missed out on Will Howard. You know, when I get to the NFL, I don't want you guys to miss out on me, because every single team that picks a quarterback in front of me, I'm going to make it my mission to make sure that they regret not picking me.
Love the passion, the enthusiasm.
Draft me.
Yes.
There you go. Draft me or you'll regret it.
All right, so overreaction.
He even stuttered there at the end. He was hanging out with Stu maybe on a Friday night. Slurring those words at the end. Did an incredible job, just couldn't land the finish.
No, he couldn't. Overreaction or proper reaction. Will Howard is the most underrated quarterback in the draft.
No, I think he's properly rated. Like, he had a good college career, obviously. He was good at Kansas State, underappreciated at Kansas State. At Ohio State, he was horrible up against Michigan after having a solid season. And in the national championship game, when the game was slipping away, he made a huge throw to Jeremiah Smith down the sideline on 3rd and 11. I love the aggressiveness. So I wouldn't say he is the most underrated quarterback in this draft class. I think you could make the case for Dylan Gabriel being completely underrated. We're not even talking about this guy going in the first 3-4 rounds now. But I don't expect Will Howard to be a consistent NFL starter, so I'm going to go overreaction on that one.
Since being drafted 5th overall in 2022, Kayvon Thibodeau has had an up-and-down career with the Giants, getting 11.5 sacks in 2023, sandwiched between 2 seasons of under 6 sacks. Now, Fox Sports NFL writer Ralph Vacchiano says that the Giants are primed to land Abdul Carter at number 3, and they could move Thibodeau for, quote, multiple premium draft picks, end of quote. Overreaction or proper reaction, Thibodeau would fetch at least a first-round pick in a trade.
God, no. A first-round pick? For a guy that has been good, solid, but has been inconsistent? I can't see a first-round pick, especially when he has a contract upcoming, being the return for Kayvon Thibodeau. I can't see that. So I'll go overreaction there. I think I'm overreaction in all these so far. 5 overreactions. Let's see what the next 2 are.
So Travis Hunter is considered Colorado's greatest player ever, becoming just the second Buffalo to win the Heisman after Rashaan Salam in 1994. Now the school announced that they will retire Hunter's jersey along with Shedeur Sanders' jersey as well. Some are upset because...
Pat Boyle?
Yeah, like Pat are upset because...
That loser overnight host? Congratulations, Pat. We're just teasing.
Because former quarterback Cordell Stewart doesn't have his jersey retired. Overreaction or proper reaction, you're okay with Colorado retiring Shedeur's jersey?
I did reach out to Cordell Stewart today. Did not hear back from him, but I did do my due diligence, and I wanted to come on the show and talk about this. Personally, I don't give a rat's ass about it, but I know that listeners care about it. I have zero issue with Colorado saying we're retiring Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders' number right now. That program was irrelevant 2 years ago. Those 2 players changed that program. I know they've had other success, but years and years and years and years ago, I have no problem with Coach Prime using this momentum right now and jumping on it 1,000 times and giving the ultimate honor for what Colorado could give to Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. So you're okay with Colorado retiring Shedeur's jersey? Absolutely. That's a proper reaction.
All right, last
I'm
one.
not a hot take artist. I'm not going to freak out and have fake outrage about this stuff like some others would. Come on. Like, is anyone really fired up and annoyed about this? It's like the whole Braves issue last night. Like, are people actually that upset with the reporter, the field level reporter, for asking for a number to a girl? Like, what are we doing? People, one way, I don't get how anyone could lose their mind over Shedeur Sanders getting his jersey retired or what happened in Atlanta, if I'm just being honest. But anyway, do you have that audio, by the way, of the Braves reporter? Like, it was weird. Don't get me wrong. But people just take this way too seriously. Like, learn how to laugh a little bit. Go ahead.
We're having a lot of fun up here up the Corona rooftop. Who do we got here? What's your name?
My name's Lauren.
Lawrence, all right.
And I'm Kayla.
Kayla, and you guys hang out at the rooftop lounge often?
Once a year I come out to visit.
Okay, well, we timed it pretty well. All right, good. How are you guys feeling about rooting for the Braves today?
Oof, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best.
What about you? Are you a Braves fan now?
Not quite.
Not quite. All right, I'm gonna go to work up here, guys. Good luck the rest of the way.
Okay, Wiley. You got 4 innings to get the numbers.
I'm on it.
Get us some more Braves fans.
All right, so they want me to get your number.
They want you to get my number.
I'm dead serious. They're saying in my ear right now. She doesn't believe me because she thinks you guys are not. I'm making this up. Even if you guys weren't, I might use that in the future. That's actually a pretty good move.
This is unbelievable.
So the best part of this right now is that Wiley could totally be faking it. This might be the new move. Just walk around with a FanDuel microphone and an earpiece in and convince fans that they're actually on TV.
I should have thought of this years ago.
I am speechless.
I got the number. We're good.
It's like a little bit weird, but what is everyone freaking out about? Like, we could all have a little sense of humor. Like, I don't understand what the original idea of the segment was, but so what? I have no issue with this. And I see people saying, oh, if a girl did that, it'd be a huge deal. If a girl sideline reporter walked up to me and I was sitting at a stadium and was like, oh, can I get your number? We're freaking out about that? We're slamming her? Like, what the heck are we talking about? Everyone's got to settle down here. People get way too serious when it comes to journalism in sports. It's a sideline reporter, a field level reporter. Most of the things they say are dopey and stupid, and it's just for entertainment. All right? Like, you're not like writing for the Wall Street Journal or whatever. Like, give me a break. People losing their minds over that. Oh my God. I see people, it sets the industry back years. No, it doesn't. Oh my God. We should be thankful that we even have the field level reporter now. It seems like they eliminate one each and every week now in this industry. So we're going to lose our minds over that? Come on. What are we doing? And I'll be fair here, because people make this a guy issue. When the reporter, or I think was a student reporter, was covering Florida and people were roasting her because she was celebrating their team winning a championship. I guess she's a student reporter and she was recording herself and the team on the court. Like, who gives a rat's ass about that either? I had no issue with any of that. None. A little awkward, but like, come on. What's the big deal here? But people are freaking out. All right, final overreaction, proper reaction question going back to football.
All right, so as of right now, Kirk Cousins is still the Falcons' backup quarterback, but there's still a chance that he gets moved before the draft. The Browns are the most likely destination, but the Steelers could also swoop in if Rodgers decides to retire. Overreaction or proper reaction, Kirk Cousins will be dealt before the draft.
Before the draft, no. After the draft, possibility. So before the draft, I will go overreaction on that one. By the way, maybe I should do that. Should I just walk around with the FanDuel microphone in the city and just go up to girls and be like, hey, can I get your number? You know, I was once on a date. This was 5 years ago, maybe. And it was in New York City at an Italian restaurant. And this kid came up to me. You know, it was probably like 22, 23, something like that. Probably close in age, honestly, at the time. When I say kid, I always find that weird when younger people say kid. So I have to call myself out on that. And he goes, hey, like, as I'm on a date, I listened to you. Can I get a photo with you? And I was like, yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I took the photo and, sat back down. And the girl that I was on the date with, she goes, oh, what? Is that one of your buddies? And I go, no, but that's a pretty good idea for future dates. And it was just some random person that happened to be a listener and recognized me. So maybe now I'll just use a FanDuel microphone and walk around. Hey, what's your number?
You throw me a couple bucks, I'll come walk up to you and be like, hey, Zach Gelb?
Only a couple bucks? Who are you, Nico Iamaleava? Like, no, you're worth a little bit. I think you get more than just a couple bucks. You can be the reverse of Nico Iamaleava. He thought he was going to get too much money. You not going to get enough money there. Like, what are we doing there? You could have put a dent or a hole in my pocket, and no doubt about that. All right, it is a Zach Gelb show on the Infinity Sports Network. Oh, jeez. I'm sure someone would clip that and be like, oh, look at this despicable guy, Zach Gelb, defending this reporter that I've never even heard of before he did this last night. Come on, what are we doing? Coming on back, we're talking Aaron Rodgers, talking Travis Hunter next. It is the Zach Gelb show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this NFL Draft preview is sponsored by Ego, tools that deliver or exceed the power and performance of gas without the noise, fuss, and fumes. For any outdoor challenge, count on Ego, tools to deliver the power, performance, and innovation you need. Ego, power beyond belief. And according to multiple reports, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders will host a final private workout on Thursday with the New York Giants, who pick third in the draft. Stu, we have been kind of back and forth on this. And I think we're in agreement here where it's been, if I'm a team like Cleveland or if I'm a team like the Giants, I would take Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
But we think that both are going to pass on him at 2 and 3, correct?
Yeah, I'd add the Raiders into that mix as well.
Mm-hmm.
Should take them, but won't take them.
So the Giants now having this private workout on Thursday, a week before the draft. Does that change that opinion a little bit with the Giants maybe taking Shedeur at 3? Because I'm still believing fully that the Browns are going to take Travis Hunter at 2. The Giants now, and this is such an obnoxious topic. Because how many times I have flip-flopped on people on this, just based off what's being said, I feel like I'm Rory McIlroy right now. Where it's like, okay, I'm about to win something, then I'm going to lose something. I'm about to win something, then I'm going to lose something. About to win, then lose. That's what I feel like with the Giants at 3rd overall pick. It's either going to be, I would imagine, Abdul Carter or Shedeur Sanders. But them having this meeting 7 days before the draft, it almost makes it seem as if the Giants don't even know what the heck they're doing right now.
So I don't think this changes 3. I think this is more if they can trade back up and get him at a later point. Because they've also brought in some other quarterbacks. So I think this is their way of saying, okay, maybe we think he's falling, so let's do our due diligence and maybe end up with him and Abdul Carter.
With how many times they've seen him and met with him, how do you not have a read at this point on him? That's the tricky part to me. So if I'm doing a pie chart right now, out of 100%, Stu, let's say it's number 1 Cam Ward to Tennessee, and then number 2 it's Travis Hunter to Cleveland. You're the guy right now. You would say, if I put a gun to your head, it's Abdul Carter at 3, right?
Yes.
What's the percentage though? If it's Abdul Carter or Shedeur Sanders, what's the percentage that it is Abdul Carter?
I'd say 85 Abdul Carter.
High.
Yeah.
Santer, what's your number?
98.
Really?
I think there's 0% chance the Giants take Shedeur 3.
Well, wait. You said 98.
Oh, fine. There's a virtual 0% chance. I think the Giants are more likely to take. Maybe not Will Campbell, but they're
no.
I don't see any way they're taking Shedeur Sanders 3.
I kind of think there's a chance. I'm gonna go 65 that it's Abdul Carter, 65% that it's Abdul Carter, and then 35% that it's Shedeur Sanders. That's 100, right? Temple math right there. Oh, by the way, I got a nice package to my apartment yesterday. Very nice package. I had to thank the folks at my alma mater, Temple University. I couldn't go to the award ceremony for the 30 under 30 award that I won, getting recognized by my alma mater because I had to work. Right, that's a hard hat guy. I couldn't go to my own award ceremony because I had to be at the Final Four, right? Doing the shows for our network and also hosting the NABC luncheon and all that stuff. So they sent me a very nice note, a very nice pamphlet from the event. Very good picture of me, by the way, with a nice little write-up. And I have the trophy. I almost didn't open it. I was going to open it here. But then I wondered if people would actually care about me opening up a trophy for myself on the air. I thought that would be a little bit douchey. So I ended up just making sure that I opened up the trophy in private. I FaceTimed some of my family and opened it up with everyone to then go watch it. So that's what I ended up doing. But yeah, I'm at 65% that it's going to be Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick. So if this is the case, you look at Carolina potentially right? Then wouldn't Carolina be the team? Because, Stu, if we're sitting here at 9 with the Saints, do you think the Saints, even though what Samter kind of threw out there, the way that McShay so eloquently explained it, why they could be a better fit for Dart, I still have a tough time seeing Dart be the 9th overall pick of the draft to the Saints, even if it is maybe a better fit, which I just disagree with. Shedeur's the better player. Find a way to make him fit in your offense if you're going to take the lesser player here in Jackson Dart. Would you then believe if you're the Giants or the Browns, you'd have to trade up to 8 in order to get Shedeur? Do you think there's a chance that Shedeur could fall past 9 with the New Orleans Saints?
I think he might fall past 9.
Wow.
I think this could be somewhere in the teens where they trade up to.
Okay, so let's do this. And what would you think the Saints do at 9?
That's a good question. I don't know. I still think they do take Shedeur there, that they would just take him, but
let's play in this world where Shedeur falls past 9. So let's say he falls past 9. Let's say McShay's right. They go Jackson Dart. So then we're sitting there, and you have the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants who have the first and second pick in the second round. So 33 and 34, respectively, Browns and Giants. So who's the team that makes the move? Like, I think you look at the Bears, the Niners, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Bucks, the Broncos. Those are the teams before you get the Steelers at 21. Could you imagine if that's how the Steelers get another first-round quarterback? Now, it didn't work with Kenny Pickett, but they just sat there and waited, and Kenny Pickett fell to him. Now, I don't think Shedeur is going to fall to 21. But then you get a little bidding war, which makes it more attractive, where the Steelers maybe try to move up, and then you get the Giants and the Browns trying to move back up to the first round as well. I would think the Panthers is the first spot that you circle, which is a big trade spot. If you're a team like the Steelers, if you're a team like the Browns or the Giants are trading up to jump over the Saints. But how about this, Stu? I just thought about this now. Could the Saints potentially, if they hear that maybe teams are trying to jump up to 8 to get Shedeur, and let's say they really want Shedeur, could the Saints maybe call up your Raiders? Or could the Saints maybe call up the Jets? And you fall back a few spots? The Raiders would go from 6 to 9. The Jets would go from 7 to 9. And you get some future draft capital where the Saints maybe feel compelled that they have to go move up in this draft. I think we haven't talked about that yet. I think that's on the table.
I think that's interesting as well. I could see that as well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the latest on Shedeur Sanders. Really don't have an effing clue where he's going to go. And then when it comes to Travis Hunter, Samter, you sent me this story. So he said this, that it was asked, like, if a team said you have to do one or the other, wide receiver or defensive back, that he would rather stop playing football?
It was an interview with CBS Sports.
No.
Very interesting comments.
Travis is allowed to talk to CBS now, being a Colorado Buffalo?
I guess that might be the case. But Here's what he said. It's never playing football again because I've been doing it my whole life and I love being on the football field. I feel like I could dominate on each side of the ball, so I really enjoy doing it.
Let me ask a simple question here that is obviously not simple. He did it at such an elite level in college. He won a Heisman Trophy, right? Why are we just so stuck in this way that he can't? People are so ready to dismiss that he cannot do that in the NFL. I think if you draft him, that's the allure of drafting Travis Hunter, is you want to see how long he could go at this playing both ways. And eventually maybe there's a time like what will inevitably happen with Shohei Ohtani, right? Where you look at Shohei Ohtani, eventually he's going to have to give up one or the other or reduce the role. And we haven't seen him pitch again, but I'm sure that's going to happen at some point this year. Maybe he ends up becoming a closer, and I know it's a different mentality and stuff like that, or reliever or something like that. But he's been elite at the plate. He's been awesome on the mound. And I think you keep on squeezing that out as long as you can. And then eventually, maybe one day you got to pick one or the other. But how teams are going to use him, and it changes team by team, I think whoever drafts him, they're going to be open to the idea of him playing both ways. But it's which one do they put more stock in? Like, do you give him more reps at defensive back or wide receiver? I do think it's easier to give him more reps at defensive back and then have like 15 plays a game for him at wide receiver or using him however you want to use him on the offensive side of the ball. But this idea that you would just outright dismiss potentially playing him at all both ways to start, then I don't think he would actually go to that extreme. Like, let's say if he got drafted by Cleveland and they go, oh, we just want you to be a defensive back. He may be upset with it, but I don't think he's then going to retire and skip out on all the potential money that he could earn. But I don't think you would take him that early if you weren't open to at least seeing early on in his career, at least on his rookie contract, not saying a full go, but have him playing on both sides of the ball. So that's where I'm at with that one. And also this Aaron Rodgers stuff. So the story came out that he pitched the Minnesota Vikings on a 1-year run. He'll mentor J.J. McCarthy, and then he would hand the baton over to J.J. McCarthy. How desperate is Aaron Rodgers? He doesn't want to go to the Steelers. He didn't want to go to the Giants. He now knows it's either probably the Steelers or nothing, and he desperately wants to be basically Brett Favre, where you go from the Packers to the Jets to the Vikings. And, hey, I understand why he would want to play for the Minnesota Vikings. You go up against the Packers, who he has resentment towards, which is ridiculous now at this stage of his career. You also get to play in a dome. You have Justin Jefferson. You have Jordan Addison. You have T.J. Hawkinson. You know, and you have Kevin O'Connell. Like, I get why you would want to do that. But, like, I understand why the Vikings told him no. But at this rate, it's actually, like, embarrassing for Rodgers. This stuff still keeps on getting out there, and it's coming from the Rodgers camp, I guarantee you, or it's coming from Rodgers himself. But he still wants the public pressure. He thinks he could get Minnesota, if he puts us out there, to reverse their idea of thinking Aaron Rodgers not as attractive as he once was. The juice is no longer worth the squeeze with Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I'd much rather go with J.J. McCarthy. Now, I understand why he pitched the Vikings, but this is getting humiliating for Aaron Rodgers. It's almost like he feels like he's forced to having being played for the Steelers, and he doesn't want to do so. Isn't that going to be awkward? Now, the Steelers really have nothing else to rest on. I go Mason Rudolph. But I think this would be the most fascinating thing if the Steelers get Shedeur Sanders, because Shedeur's NFL ready. Say what you want, he's NFL ready. And if you're drafting Shedeur Sanders in the first round, I wouldn't then bring in Aaron Rodgers. And then what does Aaron Rodgers do? The Giants already made a move, and I don't think the Vikings are going to go back on their word. So this gets to a rate, you know, maybe if he has to crawl to Minnesota and says, I'll take the league minimum. But also, do we trust Aaron Rodgers being this great mentor? You know, I think he got a solid relationship with Jordan Love, but I can't trust anything Aaron Rodgers says. And who wouldn't say if they lose in the NFC Championship game like Favre did if he wouldn't want to run it back a year after that? And you're going to delay J.J. McCarthy another year? You had a plan in Minnesota. Stick to the plan. If this was Aaron Rodgers 3 years ago, I'm in. Aaron Rodgers now, no thank you. No thank you whatsoever. I'm continuing to go with J.J. McCarthy.
You know, to be honest, if I'm the Vikings, I consider it. Worst case scenario.
And you hate Rodgers.
I do, but worst case scenario, if J.J. McCarthy is healthy, his knee looks good, he's ready to go, and he's...
You think Rodgers is going to go along with that?
He's not going to have a choice. He comes in there.
But he'll be a malcontent in that locker room. Why do we want to deal with that distraction?
Then you cut him. You sign him to a contract that's fairly team-friendly because
if you're
he's fairly
signing him,
desperate.
you're signing him with the intent to start him. That's the way that I would interpret it.
Sure. But just like with, I don't know, Matt Flynn and the Seahawks and the Steelers with Justin Fields and Russ Wilson, like, things change, right? Someone comes along and he plays better. You sign Aaron Rodgers to a team-friendly deal.
Yeah, none of those guys are Aaron Rodgers.
As a backup plan in case J.J. McCarthy's knee isn't fully right, in case he's just not quite ready yet, you have this option for a team that's ready to win now. And if it doesn't work, if J.J. McCarthy's like, you know, I'm good, and you watch him play, and training camp comes around, he's like dominating. All right, Aaron, kick to the curb. You're done.
By the way, I'm laughing not at what you were just saying, even though it could be a little bit funny. But usually the chat, when I do math, they right away say Temple math. So when Samter did the 98% and then said there's no chance that, who was it, that Shedeur Sanders gets drafted by the Giants at 3, Psych Manter then immediately chimed in. He said BU math. By the way, what happened to your BU hockey team? You were peacocking around here right before the weekend with the Bobby Orr signature on your BU hockey jersey, and what happened to them?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've been Western Michigan Broncos all my life.
My dad attended BU for 2 years. Then he was like the first Jew to ever go to Villanova. But he was watching that hockey game. He was into BU. So you guys could commiserate. You could come together and commiserate on the misery here.
Yeah, no thanks. Bob Gelb was not my cup of tea.
Oh wow!
Whoa! Yeah, me and Bob Gelb do not get along.
I don't think you want to get into a war with Bob Gelb. He will just step on you.
It all started when I took his fan off his desk without telling him.
I guess we'll be looking for a new producer soon as well shortly.
No, he's awesome. He's a cool dude.
Uh-oh. You better hope he's not listening. He takes his stuff really personally.
No, I'm just upset about the whole lasagna and Thanksgiving thing. I don't blame you. I blame the fam.
He'll start tweeting you. If he starts tweeting you, you lost. Let me tell you, he has a Yelp page And I said to him, could you actually leave a positive Yelp review? You only do negative Yelp reviews, and he will go after some of these places if he is a unsatisfied customer. Now, Samter poking the bear. I can't help you. I've tried to help you for a while. I cannot help you if you poke the Bob Gelb bear. You poke the bull, you'll get the horns. Those horns are nasty when it comes to Bob Gelb. He could be petty. All right, stand by with the latest update. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, another great offensive lineman from the Cowboys for many, many years has announced his retirement with 8-time Pro Bowl left tackle Tryon Smith riding off into the sunset. He spent 12 seasons in Dallas after being the 9th pick in the 2011 draft before playing with the Jets last year. The Dolphins are not trying to trade Tyreek Hill, but they are looking to deal 7-time Pro Bowl corner Jalen Ramsey. As GM Chris Greer said, the star corner did not ask for a deal, but both sides have agreed it was in everyone's best interest to move on. There are 2 spots waiting for the NBA's postseason tonight. The play-in tournament begins with a pair of games. Winners of tonight's matchup claim the 7th seed in their respective conferences. In the East, the Magic host the Hawks. Orlando started the season strong and ended the same way with wins in 9 of 12. Atlanta playing in this spot for the 4th straight year. The Warriors host the Grizzlies. Golden State was terrific since the start of February, but a loss in the season finale put them in position, or in this position, Steph Curry said they can't dwell on that setback.
You have to take the positives of where we were 2 months ago and know our season isn't over. So we would have loved to have taken advantage of these last 4 games, and you look at that San Antonio game as one that was a tough beat, but you have to be able to wash it down the drain quick.
The winner will face Houston. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God. We're back again.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. I just saw something on social media before we get to a news brief. Let's guess here. Stephen Jones, he talked to the media. There was a conversation about the Cowboys trading in the draft. Do you think he said it's more likely that the Cowboys trade up or trade down? What would your first guess be, Samter?
Down.
Stu?
I agree with Samter. Down.
Isn't it amazing how we just always now assume the worst with the Cowboys? It's from Pro Football Talk. Stephen Jones, Cowboys more likely to move down than up in the first round. Yeah, they've been moving more down than up for the last 25 years. Jeez. Remember this was like we're going to be all in. That was a year ago. Now we're going to be selectively aggressive. The Cowboys haven't been aggressive at all. They're selecting not to be aggressive. This is just a mess.
Selectively non-aggressive. But honestly, like for most teams, I would prefer my team to trade down. It's very rare that I want my team to give up a haul to move up. Yeah, unless there's like a guy that you really want.
I want my team to move up. Go get the player. Go get the elite player. Come on.
All right, so you're the Patriots at 4. You want them to move up or down right now?
Up. I want Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
So you'd give up a haul to move up 1 or 2 picks?
I don't think you have to give up a haul.
To get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, you're going to have to convince the Giants or the...
Well, we were talking about maybe who is it? It was a report from Connor Hughes that if there had to be a trade with the Giants, to get to Tennessee for the number 1 overall pick, that it was just swapping 1 and 3 and then giving up like two threes. Yeah, if that's a haul, sure. I'm good to, if I get Abdul Carter and the Browns, they only make me just swap a 2 and a 4 and then give up 2 threes, I would do that. Or a future second, sure. Yeah, I want the player.
I think it's going to be more than that. I think the Browns and the Giants, I think the top 3 of Cam, Abdul, and Hunter are like the 3-3, like the top 3. We
don't even know if Abdul's definitely going 3 or not.
Right,
There's still a chance of Shedeur.
Right, but I think. Well, no, I don't know. I guess
there's still a chance.
Sure. But at the end of the day, I think
chance. That's a chance.
I guess, yeah. And I have a chance to date, Alexandra Daddario one of these days. Who knows? Come on, let's be honest here.
Do you know who Alexander Daddario is, Stu?
I don't think I do.
I don't either.
You don't know Alexandra Daddario?
Let me see. Oh, yes. I do know who she is. You have a 0.5% chance of dating her.
Right, exactly. So it's not zero, but I mean, it's not going to happen.
I'm giving you some hope. Build yourself up.
I got no hope.
Shoot for the stars. You have a lot of confidence.
Yeah, but I mean, not for that.
You never know.
Alexandra Daddario, she's like
walk around with the FanDuel mic. Maybe there's a chance you get her number.
She's a top 5. She's something.
All righty, we're not going to have time to get to news brief today, so let me just play 2 audio clips. Here is Dan Morgan, the Panthers GM. Did the Derek Carr news impact the trade calls at 8 so far?
When the Saints news came out Friday, did that kind of cause a little uptick in traffic on your phone? I mean, were more people interested in talking once that's out there?
No, I don't think yet. I think it's still a little early for that. I think maybe down the line I'll expect it a little more, but right now things are quiet.
Do you get that same vibe that it might be tough to find a trade up partner?
I always look at it like it only takes one team to fall in love with a player, so a team could fall in love with a player and decide they want to trade up with us and go get their guy. So we'll be waiting if somebody wants to come up.
Yeah, it's open for business. That's pretty much what he said. If you want to jump the Saints, feel free to go get Shedeur. Finally, here's Peter Schrager was on Get Up with ESPN on Shedeur visiting the Giants on Thursday.
There's something to this. Look, they have already sent 13 different people, Greeny, to the pro day at Colorado, meaning there's a GM, obviously, but a coaching staff and the front office personnel. They went to many of his games in person. Joe Shane attended a Colorado practice in person. And I could tell you that this private workout is not just for show. They want to do the full due diligence on Shedeur Sanders. Is he possibly the 3rd overall pick where they're sitting at? Maybe. Does this also mean they can maybe trade back into the 1st round if they take his teammate Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick? I would say that's more likely. I'll mention this. They brought him in for a private workout and his top 30 visit. The Giants took him out to dinner, and he had that experience also. They are getting to know Shedeur Sanders far more than they are getting to know a lot of other prospects in this draft. And I don't take it lightly when this guy is wearing cleats that have a Giants logo at the bowl game all the way back in January. So there's something to this. The Giants are not wasting their time 9 days from the draft going and flying out to Boulder, Colorado.
And let me be clear, that that I let out, that noise, that was on the information that Peter Schrager had about Shedeur Sanders and the Giants cleats. It wasn't that I'm looking at Alexandra Daddario's photos right now on Google. Had nothing to do with that. That was about the cleats with Shedeur Sanders and the Giants, just to be clear.
I got a 0.5% chance.
Wink. It was a terrible wink by me. That was brutal. All righty, fun show today. Stu Samter, thank you. Be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Big thanks to Pat Boyle. Congratulations to him once again for joining us today. New overnight host here at the network from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern time. All righty, talk tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye.